38, 16, and now match 6. The numbers are 9, 27, 31, 29, 37, 48. Thanks for playing the Pennsylvania Lottery. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day.
Welcome to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. It is so good to be back with you all. I took a brief vacation. I'm relaxed, I'm rejuvenated, and now I'm back to share so much news with you. And there is a lot going on. So first and foremost, you can see the White House. We'll be talking a little bit more about that video you see right next to it, where we heard about that man accused of opening fire at the White House Correspondents' Center. We have a lot more information on who he is, why this may have taken place, and what else his family, friends, anybody we can talk to is telling us about him. And then up at the top right-hand corner, you're looking at Xfinity Mobile Arena. It is a big night for the Philadelphia Flyers. This is Game 5 that we're talking about, you guys. We're hoping that we can take it home. Of course, we want that spot. We're hoping that this is one of those seasons where all the fans, everybody's excited. Everybody's amped up for these guys. We're hoping that we come out on top of all of it. But honestly, being in the room is enough. And speaking of being in the room, one of our reporters, Jeff Skversky, is live for us out there at the stadium. Pretty soon we know that games are going to begin. But Jeff, it's on and popping behind you. Tell me about the atmosphere, the attitude in the room.
Oh, you can feel the energy building here as the Flyers and Penguins get set for Game 5 of the playoffs. What a moment it'll be if the Flyers can get that W tonight, clinch, and move on to the second round. You can feel it building here. This is official Flyers watch party at Stateside Live in South Philadelphia. The energy here has been tremendous. Take a look around me right now. You can see the place flyered up. Yeah, Flyers fans ready for a win tonight to take out Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. You can feel it. Let's bring over Tug right here. Let's talk to Tug. He has a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, baby.
How long did it take you to make this thing?
It was 18 years ago. He was 4 years old. It took us about a week, and we've had it ever since.
How much would you love to hoist that down Broad Street?
It's a bucket list for me. I've never really experienced it. It's the one thing left to knock off in my life, and I can't wait. This is a year, baby.
Yeah, it's been since 74 and 75, those back-to-back Stanley Cups, but this looks pretty good. This would do very nicely down Broad Street.
This will do for now, but we want the real one.
Yeah, you think the Flyers get it done tonight?
Absolutely. 2 ships passing in the night tonight, and this is the night we pass them for good.
Yeah, could it be the night the Flyers get that W, advance to the second round, and a date with Rod Brindamore and the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round? We will see. Flyers, Penguins, Game 5 from Pittsburgh. If you're not in Pittsburgh, this is the place to be. Stateside Live in South Philadelphia, the official watch party of the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's go back to you in the studio.
Oh my gosh, you guys, they're going so hard out there. First of all, it is an orange out. A little earlier, I actually saw Gritty walking through there, so it really is a party. Again, we are going to keep our eyes on the score. We'll also be checking in with the Fox 29 sports team to see just how well the boys are doing in just a little bit. Again, that game was slated for 7, but we're thinking any minute now they could actually be getting on and popping. As you can see, all the people in the room excited, and I can't believe he said that he made that thing 18 years ago. It looks great. It looks incredible. Again, we'll be checking in with the sports team in just a little bit so we can learn a little bit more about this big game ahead. But I did mention to you all that we're also keeping our eyes on the White House. Before I get into that, I want to remind you all, or maybe this is your first time joining me. First of all, my name is Judea Murray. This is Philadelphia Live. It is an interactive news conversation. So we're going to be talking about some of the biggest stories nationally, internationally, and then of course we're going to hit those hyper-local stories, the things that matter if you live here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, really any of the neighboring areas. These are going to be the things that you want to know to make sure that you're keeping yourself, your family, your friends safe. We'll also be diving into weather a little bit with our meteorologist. But again, the key to this is it's interactive. So we're streaming right now on TikTok, on YouTube, on the Fox Local app, the free Fox Local app. If you would like to engage with me, you can do that in real time in our comment section. So again, I'm checking out TikTok. Giovanna said Flyers game, super excited. Rosie, my fave, 6 said hi, hello, welcome. We are so happy to have you. I see there are quite a few of you all watching tonight, so whew, got a little nervous there. Again, we're going to be talking about all the biggest things happening all around town, nationally and internationally. Now let's get back out to the White House. We're going to have a live conversation pretty soon with a reporter who's been touching base on everything that's been taking place with this situation. You probably heard about it. You definitely have seen something about it on your social media timelines. A man allegedly entered the White House Correspondents' Dinner, at least the area. They say he stormed past security and opened fire. You could actually hear what is believed to be some of those gunshots in some of the video that was taken from inside of the room. We're going to be talking a little bit more about who this man was, why he may have done this, and then I want to really dive deep into what the White House Correspondents' Dinner is, because I realize that it's one of those things where it's like if you know, you know, or if you just so happen to have the news on that night, you may see what it's all about. But we'll be talking a little bit more about what exactly it is. I've actually gone to one of those dinners before, so I'll even be giving some of my, personal experience and how it has surprised me as to what actually took place this past weekend. So again, that's going to be one of the big stories that we touch base on. Again, we're going to be talking to one of our reporters from Fox News who's actually live for us from the area where that man, the suspect, is believed to be from. So she's been talking to family, to friends, to neighbors who say that they knew this family fairly well and how surprised they are that something like this took place. We know that earlier today, that man, I'm not naming him just yet. I still feel very strongly about naming people who may be alleged suspects, gunmen in a certain situation, especially because it's twofold. For one, this person does have to go through the court system, the judicial system, to have their fair day in court. But also, I don't want to give power to some of the words that is being said. We heard that this man may have left behind a manifesto. And so while we'll be talking about it, we will name him. Don't get me wrong, we will name him. I just don't want to harp on some of those extra details. I don't want to encourage copycats or anything like that. But again, we'll be playing some sound for you all so you actually hear from those neighbors what they knew about this family, what they knew about this young man, and again, why they think this may have taken place, or for some of them, why it's just so mind-boggling that it would have happened. I can tell you, before we get into everything, that person, that suspect, they say that he did end up shooting one person. It was an officer who thankfully was wearing a bulletproof vest, and they say that they believe that that is what saved his life. Of course, President Donald Trump was in the room. Vice President J.D. Vance was in the room. Plenty of celebrities, other very big politicians, then of course a whole slew of journalists, media organizations were there. So it was very quickly covered. We got to hear from the president shortly after it happened, and now we've gotten some more information as this will start to make its way through the court system. So again, we'll be talking about all of that. Someone said, let's talk about some other stuff. Don't worry, we definitely will. We've got so much on the docket for you all today, especially some more of our hyper-local headlines. We're going to take a quick step back, but when we come back, we're going to have that conversation with the Fox News reporter I told you about. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray, and you are taking a live look out at the White House. Washington, D.C. was a crazy place to be this past weekend. It's the White House Correspondents' Dinner, a ton of journalists in the room, politicians, celebrities. We know that a man entered that area, and they say that he opened fire. Luckily, no one was seriously injured in this case, but the Justice Department is already building its case against him. Investigators searched his home in Southern California over the weekend, and we're also hearing from neighbors, from family members, friends. We're going to get right on out to Fox News' Sarah Allegre, who's been heavily researching, reporting on this case for us. Sarah, what are we learning so far about this suspected gunman?
Well, hey there, Judea. After that federal court hearing, we know he's been charged with 3 violent federal crimes, including an attempted assassination on the president. And this is a charge that could likely put him away for life. But outside, we are here at the suspect's home where he lived with his parents, getting a better idea into his life, essentially. We see that blue scooter here behind me. He used that to get to work each day, but obviously a very different scene and atmosphere, very quiet in comparison to what we experienced over the weekend. Law enforcement got here quickly Saturday night, shortly after that attack. Then come Sunday, they were back again with a search warrant focusing in on the home where Alan had lived with his parents. Investigators speaking with family and friends, just trying to piece together a better idea of the past and the moments beforehand. Begs the question, who is Cole Allen? Looking at what we believe to be his LinkedIn page, it tells us he graduated from Caltech in 2017 with a degree in mechanical engineering. Most recently, it says he earned a master's in computer science. He worked here in Torrance, California as a tutor as well. But investigators say, you know, looking at his social media, looking at online, it tells us a different story, pointing to anti-Trump posts, and then later along with that manifesto. So for people who live here, who knew the family, this news that happened Saturday following the attack has just been something that's been very hard to digest.
How could this happen? I mean, people in our neighborhood genuinely get along despite differences, and you know, then it was just empathy towards the family, because frankly, you know, their life's about to make a huge change, and you know, the individual who did this, he's going to need to have his day in court. It's heartbreaking.
And this was very well planned. Investigators say Allen left California by train. We know he stopped in Chicago, then continued on into D.C., where he checked into the Washington Hilton Hotel the day before the attack. That's where authorities say he rushed past that security service checkpoint, armed with several weapons. Secret Service officer was shot, but agents moved in quickly, stopping Allen, taking him into custody before he reached the ballroom, where, of course, President Trump was, along with members of his cabinet. And earlier today, the DOJ telling us, of course, they were targeted, or likely the intended targets, based on what Allen had written in his manifesto.
Make no mistake, he says, I am targeting the administration officials. They are my targets, and I'm prioritizing from the top down, the highest ranking from the lowest. And I will not hesitate to get involved in any kind of encounter with anyone who blocks me from the president.
Yeah, and investigators say Allen illegally bought at least 2 firearms in California. This includes a long gun he just bought last year and then a handgun a couple of years back. Again, weapons that he brought across state lines and used the night of that attack at the Washington Hilton Hotel in D.C. Again, a night meant to celebrate journalism and freedom of speech, ending with shots fired. Judea, back to you.
Sarah, with all the details that are coming out, I mean, there are so many more questions that I have, but one thing that stands out to me, you mentioned that he took a train from California to Chicago area and then to DC, and I think about the fact that you also say he had those, potentially had those weapons with him, and I'm wondering if, you know, that would be the reason not to take a plane, probably wouldn't be able to get past TSA, but that is a long ride, a long time to think about what you're doing if this is all true before you get to the area where all this takes place. And with all the questions that I have, I imagine you probably have some too. Are there any that you're hoping to get answers to sooner than later as a reporter?
Well, this is what investigators are looking into, and I love that you brought up that point, going by train and the causation behind that, thinking about airport security, getting through those TSA checkpoints, what that's like in comparison to traveling by train, whereas we know security screening a little less tight than what we'd experienced by then, but more so just hoping to get a better understanding into his past, his prior relationships as well. But I think what's really interesting to note is hearing from siblings to, his sister basically saying that he has made radical statements in the past, but then contrasting that to what we're hearing from students, people that he worked with. Very different storylines here, and I think it gives us a better understanding into the complexity of this individual and the causation behind that, what led up to it. And I know there's a lot of talk about rhetoric and discourse and what that leads to, and what we've seen in the past, and using it as a kind of a looking glass into the present.
Understood. And I'm happy that you're also able to share from your perspective. We're able to kind of tear apart the what do I want to say here? We always have a veil in front of the news, per se, when we don't have a lot of time to go over stories like this. But then when you're able to give us the questions that you may have, that you're in those rooms trying to get answers to for the people, it helps, I think, our viewers figure out exactly like what we're trying to do here, what stories we're trying to tell. I do have another question for you, though, because we know he has been arrested. We know he was in court. Are they thinking that he acted alone? Was this a lone wolf type of situation?
At this point, that's what they believe. I do want to add, though, he did not issue a plea, but we do know he will be back in court coming up this Thursday. So again, this is something we will learn more and potentially learn of more charges as this case evolves.
Okay. Thank you for walking us through this. This is one of those stories everyone's eyes are on. A lot of people actually think that this isn't real. So that's going to be something that's also, looked into and investigated as well. But Sarah, I thank you for your time and taking us through the latest of what we know here. And you guys, while I have you here, I do want to play for you. Earlier today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she held the first news briefing at the White House ever since this shooting happened. And during the Q&A, she was talking a little bit with reporters about all the information that we have so far, trying to answer some of those questions that Sarah and I have here. I want to let you listen in to a little bit of what they had to say.
The president, Saturday after the assassination attempt came here, he emphasized that law enforcement did their job, keeping everyone safe for dinner. House Speaker Mike Johnson came out and said he believes the president needs greater protection. What is the White House's message to the millions of Americans who wake up here today nervous, uneasy about the safety of the president at events like this and the safety of other cabinet members?
Well, we certainly understand their fears and their worries. As you heard from the president himself, he continues to have trust in the United States Secret Service. As I just said, these are great men and women who are doing their jobs and performing their duties honorably. As we all witnessed on Saturday evening, within minutes, the president, the first lady, the vice president, members of the president's cabinet were ushered out of the room. The perpetrator, who sought to inflict massive harm, as we all now know with the release of the manifesto on administration officials and the president himself, was stopped at the security perimeter that was set up. He tried to charge through it, as you saw on video, and he was quickly neutralized by Secret Service, and thank God that he was. With that said, obviously the White House is always asking the tough questions and ensuring the safety of the president. I understand there will be a meeting early this week convened by the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles with top DHS leadership, members of the United States Secret Service, and our own operations team here to ensure the safety and the security of the president, as we do have many of these major events moving forward. So we're always monitoring operations and procedures, always asking the tough questions to ensure the president is safe, and the American people should be assured there's no higher priority for the president and his staff than the president's safety.
Caroline, Friday you said that you thought that gaggle out of the sticks would be your last one for your baby. Back in 2024, when the president had the attempt on his life in Butler, you cut your maternity leave short back then. You're obviously back here today after Saturday. Can you just elaborate a little bit why you felt it was important to be here to bring to the media and talk to the American people from the stand?
Sure. It's sort of crazy timing when you put it that way for both children with two assassination attempts against the president. I'm honored to work in this job. I view this job as the president's spokesperson and the White House spokeswoman as public service. It's not just any job. I'm honored to do it, and I'm honored to work and speak on behalf of President Trump, who has faced unprecedented adversity and challenges, and I'm honored to work for him. And again, as I witnessed on Saturday night, just his dogged resolve and determination to get back onto the stage, and he was pushing Secret Service and law enforcement to allow him to address, and that really, I think, hopefully gives the country the type of strength that we need. And I certainly know, as his spokeswoman, and I can speak on behalf of all of the staff here at the White House, the president inspires all of us to just keep going and keep fighting every day. Thanks, Daniel. And congrats to you on your new baby. He's beautiful. Aisha.
Just on the rhetoric, you mentioned the First Lady and Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's comments were, Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow. And he said this days before the shooting, but there does seem to be a normalization of rhetoric about assassinating this particular president. How can this administration try to put an end to this?
Well, I think you heard it directly from the president on Saturday night, Aisha, that in his words, we need to recommit ourselves as a country to toning down the rhetoric and to unifying around what makes our country great. That's true of everyone who works in this White House, but as I said, it's also true of everyone who has a voice and a platform across this country, whether you're on television, a podcast host, people listen, and when you have mentally disturbed individuals across the country who are listening to this crazed rhetoric about the president day after day after day, it inspires them to do crazy things. And unfortunately, it's not just the media, it is the entire Democrat Party has made their pitch to voters across the country that Donald Trump poses an existential threat to democracy, that he is a fascist, and that they compare him to Hitler. I mean, these are despicable statements that the American people have been consuming for years. And so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, "We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time." Governor Josh Shapiro said heads need to roll within the administration. Senator Alex Padilla said people are, quote, dying because of fear and terror caused by the Trump administration. Senator Elizabeth Warren, President Trump is making the country look like a, quote, fascist state. Senator Adam Schiff saying President Trump using a dictator playbook. Senator Ed Markey calling President Trump a dictator, saying that this administration's actions are authoritarianism on steroids. Governor J.B. Pritzker, never before in my life have I called for mass protest disruptions. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. You have Rep. Presley saying, we'll see you in the streets. Rep. Monica McIver, a Democrat representative on Capitol Hill, we will not take this shit from Donald Trump. He thinks he's a dictator. We are at war. These are Democrat elected officials calling for war against the President of the United States and his supporters. I could go on and on, but again, when you have people in positions of power that are saying things like this every single day for years, you are inspiring violence by people who are already mentally ill. And that's what we've seen against this president for far too long.
This is disinformation and misinformation online. There will be bite-sized clips that will go viral to the point where there are Americans in this country that believe that what happened Saturday night was staged. How does this White House tackle that with social media companies out there, whether it's X, Facebook, Instagram? How do they work with these companies to make sure that doesn't get out of control?
It's certainly a good question, Aisha. I don't have tangible answers for you on what we're doing with social media companies, if anything at all. What I will say is it's very important to us that we get the truth and the facts about this case and any case out there as quickly as possible to dispel some of that crazy nonsense that you do see running rampant online. And I think the Department of Justice and the FBI thus far have done a good job of disseminating the truth and the facts about this alleged attempted assassin the perpetrator in this case, and I understand he'll be arraigned in court very soon. You all see that, and the Department of Justice will be giving a briefing and an update later today. So as far as we're concerned, just providing maximum transparency, and hopefully people will believe the truth rather than the lies and the conspiracies that so often do go crazy on social media. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Does the administration view this as a security failure, or did the protocols work as they were designed?
The president has said he believes that the protocols worked. Again, you had a perpetrator who tried to breach the security parameter that was set up by Secret Service, and he was running as fast as he could and was immediately neutralized moments later. And again, having been right up there on the stage with the president and the First Lady, I can tell you it was seconds before we were told to get down, and it was seconds before we found ourselves in the hold room backstage. It all happened literally within a matter of seconds. The president, the vice president, and the First Lady being pulled to safety. That is not done if there's a lapse. So Secret Service did their jobs well. They communicated with one another to remove the president and the vice president to safety as quickly as they could, and obviously to neutralize the shooter as well. And thank God they did, because if that man was allowed into that ballroom, it would have been a much different scene.
And just one more follow-up on just how the White House could be rethinking security protocols going forward. I mean, we all remember after the attempted assassination in Butler, there were indoor rallies that were held after that. Is that out of the question, changing any additional security protocols when it comes to how the president does these events that are outside of the White House?
I definitely wouldn't say changes are out of the question. I think, again, that it's up to the White House here, and we view it as a great responsibility to ensure the maximum safety of the president and the vice president and the entire cabinet. And so we're always looking for ways to improve security. I think if you just sit here and say everything is perfect all the time, that's not a good way to operate. And so the White House will continue to engage with DHS and with Secret Service to find ways to improve and strengthen security. But as far as Saturday night is concerned, the president was satisfied with the response, and he's very grateful to the men and women who provided the response for him and his wife and members of his team.
So we're going to put a pin in it there. She's not done with this Q&A. Maybe we'll get back to it in just a little bit. But I did want to point out that she mentioned that Cole Allen did have his day in court today, made his first court appearance. And then she also mentioned that the Department of Justice, because this was earlier in the day, she mentioned that the Department of Justice would be speaking soon, talking a little bit more about some of the details, the information that we have there. When we come back from this break, I want to play that full press conference for you if we can. It's going to be from the Department of Justice. Again, they're going over a lot of the details that you probably aren't aware of just yet. We'll be going over that and more when we come back. They say he came running in with guns, with knives. He has now been charged with attempting to assassinate the president. We're talking about Cole Thomas Allen. He's a man from California who officials say came all the way to Washington, D.C. with a plan to hurt people, maybe even the president. I want to play for you now. The Department of Justice, they had a press conference after he made his first appearance in court. They talked a little bit more about the latest details that we have, including who this person is, what they believe may be the motive, or at least some of the things that are helping them build their case against him. So let's listen in together.
Everybody, thanks for being here. On Saturday night, as you all know, an act of violence occurred at a gathering that symbolizes something fundamental to our system of government: the ability of a free press and public officials to come together in celebration and not fear. The act was stopped because of the courage and, that horrible act was stopped because of the courage and professionalism of law enforcement. The officers who responded without hesitation and did their jobs as they were trained to do. Secret Service agents promptly tackled and detained the suspect, Cole Thomas Allen. The president and all the protectees and participants at the dinner were safe. One brave officer was injured and is receiving care and has been released from the hospital. I want to make this clear. This man was a floor above the ballroom with hundreds of federal agents between him and the President of the United States. The Department of Justice approaches incidents like this with urgency and clarity of purpose. Violence has no place in civic life. It cannot and will not be used to disrupt democratic institutions or intimidate those who serve them, and it certainly cannot continue to be used against the President of the United States. We are investigating this matter fully. We will apply the law fairly, and we will ensure that accountability is swift and certain. But we also should recognize what did not happen. Law enforcement did not fail. They did exactly what they are trained to do. This was not an accident. It was the result, as we know now, of preparation. But the men and women who protected us that night were trained, professional, and had an enduring commitment to the rule of law. Today, the Department of Justice filed 3 federal charges in United States District Court against Cole Thomas Allen. The first count is attempted assassination of the President of the United States. This count is punishable by up to life in prison. The second count is interstate transportation of a firearm to commit a felony. This is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. And the third count is discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence, which is punishable by a mandatory minimum term of imprisonment of 10 years, a maximum of life, and the 10 years is consecutive to any other sentence imposed. Just to go through very quickly the timeline, which many of you in this room already know. The defendant, Allen, made a hotel reservation at the Washington Hilton for April 24th through April 26th. On April 21st of this year, he traveled by train from Los Angeles to Chicago and then from Chicago to Washington, D.C. On April 24th, he arrived in Washington, D.C. at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon and checked into the Washington Hilton. Approximately at 8:40 on the night of April 25th, Allen approached a security checkpoint on the terrace level of the hotel, which is again a floor above where the dinner was taking place. He ran through the magnetometer holding a long gun. As he did so, U.S. Secret Service personnel assigned to the checkpoint heard a loud gunshot. One Secret Service officer was shot in the chest, but was wearing a ballistic vest that worked. This heroic officer who was hit fired 5 times at Allen, who was not shot, but fell to the ground and was promptly arrested. I want to thank everybody who worked tirelessly on Saturday, Sunday, and continuing today. This includes members of the FBI, and Director Patel is going to address that in a minute. It includes members of the Metropolitan Police Department who were immediately on the scene, the chief, the mayor, to make sure that law enforcement was available to do their jobs and had all the tools they needed to do so. And lastly, the United States Attorney's Office here in D.C., our U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro and her team. A prosecutor stayed up all night long, didn't sleep all day yesterday, making sure that we got what we needed from all over the country. It included search warrants in California, search warrants here in D.C., multiple interviews that have been conducted already of witnesses and of family members of the charged individual, and continue to work hard today. This investigation is ongoing. It's not complete. A lot of the information that the media is hearing through leaks or sources, some of it is true, some of it is not true, and at the right time you will hear information from us as appropriate. I'd like to ask our U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro to say a few words, and then followed by Director Patel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Cole Allen's journey of accountability in the criminal justice system starts today. Todd Blanche just indicated to you the charges. Those charges are only 3 charges that are in the complaint that has been presented in federal district court about an hour ago. There will be additional charges as this investigation continues to unfold. But make no mistake, this was an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, with the defendant making clear what his intent was. And that intent was to bring down as many of the high-ranking cabinet officials as he could. This is the kind of situation that we cannot tolerate. And as the Attorney General has just indicated, it could have been so much worse, but for the reality that we had the Secret Service as well as the Metropolitan Police Department and the FBI. Now, the facts make it very clear what this intent was. You may recall that it was on March 2nd that the president indicated that he would be attending this public event at the Hilton. And on April 6th, that's when Cole Allen first made a hotel reservation at the Washington Hilton for 3 nights, the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. It was on April 21st that he traveled all the way from the West Coast, from his home near L.A. He gets to Chicago on April 23rd, and has been indicated he arrives in D.C. on the 24th, and he checks into the hotel at about 3 p.m. He stays overnight. He is very much aware that the president and the first lady entered the ballroom at 8 p.m. And it was at 8:40 that he made a decision to rush the ballroom. And thank goodness, law enforcement, the Secret Service, was able to prevent him from getting into that ballroom. He was not injured other than some kind of scrape on his knee. Now, as indicated, these are the weapons that the defendant had on his person. You can see that's a 12-gauge pump-action Mossberg shotgun. It's a .38 semi-automatic. He had at least 3 knives and all kinds of paraphernalia. So any suggestion that he wasn't there to do harm is absurd. We will prove when he purchased these guns. They were purchased in California. Why is that relevant? It is relevant because he crossed interstate lines with those firearms. And those are the firearms that he used on the night of the 25th, or attempted to use at the very least. Now, the manifesto also makes clear about his expected rules of engagement. You know, you can look at it and read it, and it may seem kind of la, but at the end, make no mistake, he says, I am targeting the administration officials. They are my targets, and I'm prioritizing from the top down the highest ranking from the lowest. And I will not hesitate to get involved in any kind of encounter with anyone who blocks me from the president. Now, finally, let me say one thing. Within days of the president nominating me to be the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, I was at the scene of a double homicide where one Elias Rodriguez crossed state lines from Chicago with a firearm to commit a felony in the district. He's now indicted for the murder of two individuals, Laron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, here in Washington. Not long after that, another individual, Ramanella Lockenwall, crossed state lines, again with a firearm, with intent to commit a felony here in Washington. He traveled from the state of Washington. He is now indicted with the murder of Sarah Beckstrom, a National Guardsman, and the attempted murder of National Guard Andrew Wolf. Today, we have Cole Allen, another individual, charged with crossing state lines coming from California with a firearm with the intent to commit a felony here in the district. Let this be a message to anyone who thinks that Washington, D.C. is the place to act out political violence. And if you are willing to do so with a firearm and cross state lines, we will find you, we will track your steps from the inception of your plan, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Washington, D.C. is not the place to travel to commit acts of violence. The Constitution and the laws of the United States permit us to register our views through our voices and our votes. What they don't permit is making your views known through violence, especially violence directed at the President of the United States. This is anti-democratic at its core.
Thank you, Judge. Excuse me. Thank you, General. This one hits a little differently. We were all there. Many of you were there. Many of you watching were there as well. The president was there. The vice president was there. The cabinet was there. And what you saw, described by the general and the U.S. attorney, is absolutely true. The president spoke on late Saturday evening with the message of unity and a backing of law enforcement, and we have followed through on that message of unity and the effectuation of law enforcement across this country. This FBI is grateful to the United States Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security, and our interagency partners, including the Metropolitan Police Department, for swiftly jumping into action. All of us on there put us in a unique position, but all of us also acted uniquely. The Washington field office jumped into action immediately, sending a mobile command center to the scene, along with our evidence response technicians, who showed up in speedy fashion to make sure we could collect the evidence that the prosecutors and the department needed to make this announcement today. Also on scene, you were told about the brave heroics of the United States Secret Service and other members of law enforcement, and that should be celebrated by every single American. They did exactly what they were trained to do. They stopped a massive attack from becoming even worse. They stood in the way, they safeguarded America, and they should be nothing but applauded for their bravery and their dedication to their mission and their selfless sacrifice to this country. The FBI, along with standing up mobile command units, evidence tech response team, and Washington SWAT on scene, also established our NC3, our National Crisis Coordination Center, almost immediately. And almost immediately in parallel, we stood up our command center at the Washington field office under ADIC Darren Cox's leadership. Throughout the evening, we immediately began working with our Department of Justice partners to find the evidence necessary to effectuate the legal process necessary and enter into the suspect's room at the Washington Hilton successfully and lawfully and obtain the relevant evidence for exploitation that was on scene. Back at the headquarters division and the Washington field office, we were coordinating a national scale investigation that literally spanned from coast to coast. As you heard, FBI agents, along with the interagency, were immediately dispatched to the suspect's home in California, where we conducted interviews that provided critical information about this horrific attack. We also dispatched investigators and agents to New London, Connecticut, where we conducted further interviews that provided necessary information that you will find in this criminal complaint, as the United States Attorney has just laid out. While officers were working diligently through the night to conduct those interviews, We were also conducting interviews of witnesses on scene. Those interviews are ongoing. As you know, there was almost 2,000 people there. We are sifting through and prioritizing who to talk to, and we will get to each and every one of you with any bit of relevant information. Again, we ask everybody who has any relevant information, like I did on Saturday night with the president, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Any piece of information is information we want to have and must receive. On top of the on-scene response by this FBI, the headquarters response, and the Washington field office response, the FBI flipped on its enterprise-wide response to this critical incident. What does that mean? We dispatched fixed-wing assets across the country so that we could immediately transport evidence that was acquired in California and Connecticut and sent it to our laboratories in Quantico for analysis. We collected the shell casings on scene, including the firearms and the weapons that the judge talked about. Those were also sent to our Quantico laboratories for immediate analysis. America should be proud that this FBI acted with the urgency that was needed for the moment that we had to answer. The president rightly said that we will act in a unified fashion, and it's because of President Trump's leadership and backing of the blue, every single person in law enforcement that I stood with into late evening hours on Saturday, early evening hours on Sunday, and all day yesterday and today are thrilled to wear the badge and defend this country. Each and every one of them deserves our thanks, and I encourage everyone listening to go out there and shake the hand of a federal agent or police officer and say thank you for doing their job. Thank you for training endlessly to make sure they meet the mission requirements. And for me, as the director of the FBI, I want to thank our headquarters components for working diligently with our prosecutors and make sure that the American public knows it's not just federal agents that do this work. It's our intelligence analysts, our support staff, our laboratories, our fixed-wing assets, our critical incident response groups, our hostage rescue teams. Agents sprung into action, got out of bed, and haven't slept since. These prosecutors haven't slept since, and I promise you they're not going to be sleeping. They are going to give you every piece of evidence. As the journal said, we will make public, when appropriate, to protect the integrity of this investigation, to make sure that due process is served, and we will meet the highest standards of the Constitution as we always do. And that is when we will continue to disclose information. I know the public has a yearning for information, but just remind yourself of how much information you have already received, how transparent this administration has been. In less than 48 hours, you know almost every single thing we know. And what we have not told you yet, we will tell you in short order. So once again, from me, as director of the FBI, I want to thank the interagency. I want to thank the United States Secret Service and their director, Mark Wayne Mullen, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Attorney General of the United States Attorney Pirro, and Ada Cox for springing into action on a night that should have been celebrating free speech, but we will be doing it again shortly, as the president said, and we look forward to seeing you all there.
All right, so you guys just heard from Kash Patel from the FBI. Again, as he said, this is very much so an ongoing investigation. We're supposed to hear from Cole Allen again. I believe on Thursday he'll be making another appearance. And they did say that while he has not entered a plea, they do say he will continue to be detained while he makes all of these appearances throughout the week and the weeks to come. So we'll be touching base on this story a little bit more. Remember, this is an interactive conversation, and I've been seeing you guys on TikTok, a lot of you saying that you believe that this was a staged event. And so I just want to know why. I really want to pick your brains. So feel free to get in our comment section. Let me know why, what it is that would have to happen for you to believe that this was a real event. You know, I'm just curious. But I also want to let you know that while we will be keeping our eyes on this, we have a lot of news happening hyper-locally. Like, for example, the Flyers are playing. The Philadelphia Flyers is a really big game for us. So we'll be touching base with our sports team and to see how they're doing, what the score is like. But also, I want to let you guys know exactly what's at stake here. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Philadelphia Live. You guys, you're taking a live look out at Pittsburgh because while all the fanfare and celebration is happening here in Philly, with Philly fans really excited to see what the Flyers are going to do tonight, we know that that big game is actually taking place in Pittsburgh. So what game am I talking about? Flyers versus the Penguins. This is our last-ditch effort, I believe, to earn our spot and keep our spot in the playoffs. I want to touch base with our sports team. Scott, you know that I have been very open about trying to learn a little bit more. I've got some questions for you, but first and foremost, how are we doing out there?
Well, first period ended a couple of minutes ago, and the Flyers are down 1-0. But they did come out with more energy in this first period than they did the other night when they were trying to close out the series and were unable to do so Saturday night here at home. So the energy level's good. They've outshot the Penguins in the first period, so they're definitely putting the puck on the net, but so far none of them have gone in, whereas the Penguins were able to get one in only a few minutes into the game. So they've had the lead throughout most of the first period, 1-0, but the Flyers have been behind before in this series. They haven't panicked. They haven't done any of that kind of stuff. So still 2 periods of hockey to play tonight. And to kind of answer your question, if the Flyers don't win tonight, they still have 2 more games that they would have to lose before they'd be eliminated. So if they don't win tonight, the series shifts back to Philadelphia. They'd be at home Wednesday night, and they'd have another opportunity to win the series there because they're up right now 3-1. So they definitely have a little bit of cushion, but that's not to say that that doesn't mean this isn't serious. They need to try to close this out tonight and move on.
Okay, so the Flyers have a little bit of cushion. What about the Penguins? Are they the ones who are really in hot water if they don't do so hot tonight?
Yeah, the Penguins really seem to kind of be manhandled by the Flyers throughout most of the series, which is why the Flyers were able to win the first 3 games. The first 2 out there in Pittsburgh, they won Game 3 back here in Philly. And it was then that the Penguins started to play with some desperation and the intentionality and the understanding that their season was going to end if they lose another game. So they are desperate. They're playing like a desperate team. And the Flyers have to learn how to put a team away, how to take a series and win that fourth and in some ways the most difficult game to win is that one where you're trying to eliminate someone. They're fighting for their lives, and that matters. And the Penguins are playing right now like a team that is desperate to keep their season alive. The Flyers have to find a way to temper that, and if they can get a goal in here in the second period. The second period's been a little bit better for them throughout this series, so we'll see how they rebound in this second period after they come out. But, yeah, the Penguins are playing desperate. They're playing like a team that's trying to save their season because they know that one more loss, and if it happens tonight, their season's over and the Flyers are moving on.
Okay. Enough about the Penguins. Let's focus on the Flyers. We know we've got some really young stars out there trying their hardest to shine, and so far we have seen them do really well. Porter, Trevor, that's what I'm talking about here. But is the pressure on for them? Because, I mean, they are facing some legends on the ice.
Yeah, they haven't seemed too intimidated from that. They haven't backed down. Good. They've definitely been throwing around their weight and checking these guys, and they don't seem too intimidated. You're worried about that in maybe games 1 and 2 out there in Pittsburgh. Would the moment be too big for some of these young guys? Denver Barkey for the Flyers turned 21 today. So he's having quite a birthday, and I'm sure he'd love to celebrate that with a win. But, these guys are young, and that's what I mean about, like, what happened Saturday night was some of them talked about it in the locker room after the game. They have to learn how to put a team away. They've never been in this position. They're young, they're inexperienced, and that's what they need to understand how to do is what is it going to take to win that final game, to get through that and into the next round. And so far, Pittsburgh has gotten the better of them so far tonight in terms of the goals. As I said, the Flyers have outshot them, and these young players are not intimidated. They're definitely holding their own pretty well.
Okay, good. It sounds like they got that Philly confidence on them.
Yeah, they definitely do. They are a confident group, no doubt.
We are definitely going to talk about some of the other biggest things happening with sports coming up. But right now, I wanted to make sure that it was all about the Flyers and the Penguins. I know you just told me what the score was for the first period, but if we have the opportunity to pull that back up, just to keep the people updated in case they missed us at the top of this. We got it here. Yes, they just ended the first period, as you just told us. Pittsburgh Penguins are still up 1, but hey, it's anybody's game. Still early.
It is. Yeah, and I think no panic. Flyers fans should be fine. They'll see how they come out. Rick Tocchet's done an amazing job with this group, the head coach, and I think he'll have them focused coming out in the second period. I would not be surprised if they're able to get a goal in here and tie this thing up.
Yeah, good stuff. And the Flyers fans, as you mentioned, they seem to not be too shaken up. They didn't wear their orange out for nothing. We just checked in with Jeff Skversky, and they were going absolutely nuts out there at their watch party. So I can imagine that they're still cheering, they're still going hard. They're keeping up that confidence too, just like the players on the ice. Scott, thank you for weighing in for us.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
All right, you guys, still ahead. Remember I told you that there's a lot that I want to talk about with you all, not just having to do with the White House. There are also some big trending topics out there, but also I want to make sure that while we're talking about some of the heavier things in news, we're also keeping things kind of lighthearted. So normally every single night, I've got a segment called What You Think, where I pose some sort of scenario to you all. This is an interactive conversation, so you're able to weigh in real time in our comment section, which you do, and I love. I'm also able to give you guys shout outs. But tonight, I want to switch it up. While we're talking about some heavy things in news, I want to know, what good news do you have from April? Tell me something good that happened to you this month. It's my birthday month, so honestly, that's my good thing. That's my happy thing. But did you get a raise? Did you, I don't know, get the girl, get the guy? Are the kids acting right? What is the best thing that happened to you so far in April? So we've got a survey up, a poll up for you guys to vote, or you can hit me up in the comment section in real time and let me know what it is like. But again, we have that poll up for you all. If you go to our Go Vote, it says, has April been the best month of 2026 so far? Again, for me, it's been a yes, but what did you guys think? Want to bring up our Jake Leonard to the desk.
Thank you.
Jake,
thank you. It's good to be back.
yes,
Welcome back.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm glad that this thing still works up here.
Yes.
These mics are still on. But what were the people saying?
So a lot of people, you know, it seems like people are having a good April, you know, on Instagram. So we have this question up on our Instagram if you're not following already, Fox29 Philly. You can also find it posted on X, Facebook. The Go Vote itself is Fox29/Go Vote under the Fox Local tab. So vote on there so we can see how your April's been. But looking at the comments, a lot of people are saying April's been pretty good. People are saying the temperature change has been bringing them down a little bit.
I don't know what it's been like. Has it been kind of cold?
It's been really cold. You know, you left and it was really nice, and then it got really cold and it was really rainy. So that's
Dang, sorry guys.
So that's bringing people down. But you know, a lot of other people have been commenting good news. You know, people are getting jobs.
Good.
People are having grandkids. There's big parties going on. You know, it's like, it is the little things, you know, like.
Yeah, no, you got to count all your little blessings.
Exactly. You know, something as little as someone being like, oh, I saw my family who I haven't seen in a while, and that made my day. I'm working on myself. That's my goal for the month, people have been saying. So it seems people are generally pretty positive, but I mean, as you can see, 28% of people said, no, it hasn't been their best month, but you know what? That just means their best month is still ahead.
Amen.
You know?
Yes, exactly that. And you know what? Even if like this has been a pretty not so good month,
Right.
April showers bring May flowers. So
Exactly.
maybe May is your time.
Yes, 100%.
So again, we're keeping things light from time to time, but of course we're all talking about some of the biggest things happening around town. So when we come back, there's another story I want to get into. Unfortunately, we got to turn the tone one more time. We heard that the search is on for some suspects involved in sexual assault. Yeah, we'll be talking about that when we come back. right, welcome to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. If you weren't with us in our 7 o'clock hour, remember this is an interactive news conversation. So while we're talking about some of the biggest headlines, if you've got a question for our reporters, you can ask us in real time. I'll be able to pose it. I can give you a shout out, and we can get you some answers to anything that you want to know about these stories that we're uncovering. And this next one, hold on to your hats because it's a little rough. We're hearing that the search is on for a group that's been accused not just of robbery, but apparently of sexual assault. One of our reporters, Jenny Joyce, she's been covering this, bringing us up to date. What are you hearing about this situation?
Good evening. Well, Philly police say that they have at least 2 victims in this case so far, and they have also released very clear surveillance photos of the 5 suspects that they are now looking for. So take a look at these photos. Philadelphia police allege that these people are responsible for breaking into a building and then robbing and sexually assaulting at least 2 victims at gunpoint. According to investigators, it happened around 4:30 Saturday morning on the 400 block of North 9th Street in North Philadelphia. When police arrived, they caught 18-year-old Sadakmed Bakiev on the roof, but the rest of the suspects got away. According to police, Bakiev is charged with rape, aggravated assault, robbery, and related offenses. So now again, police put out those clear photos. They're asking anyone who recognizes these people who are believed to be in their late teens, early 20s to please give them a call. You can call the Philadelphia Police tip line at 215-686-8477. Back to you.
I have so many questions. I'm discussing with some of these details that you're telling me here. So this started as a robbery that kind of took a left turn. I don't know if this was the ultimate goal or whether it just happened that way. But have they suggested knowing anything about a motive, or at this point in time, they're just looking for the suspects themselves?
No, at this point, I was talking to police earlier today, and they really didn't have any information on any possible motive, if they knew that this was a targeted incident, but we'll send it back to you.
Okay. Just one more question. I assume the answer is no, but the young suspect that's already been taken into custody, I take it he's not saying anything since they're still trying to identify this?
We're going to send it back to you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I understand, and actually I hear it sounds like maybe there's some riffraff happening on the streets there. She's going to make sure that she's being safe. Jenny, I'm sorry for not picking up on that earlier. We have this article up on our website if you want to know more information. Again, I apologize for not picking up on that beforehand. So some of the other big stories that we have in the bank for you all, we know that out in DC, King Charles III is making an appearance. He's supposed to be meeting with President Donald Trump, and actually earlier today, as you can see there, the First Lady, the President walked out of the White House as the car rolled up. They greeted the King and the Queen from the UK. This is a very interesting opportunity here. As we know, we're celebrating 250 years of freedom here in the United States of America. That also means 250 years since we broke away from Britain. So we know that this is a delicate mission. They say that they're trying to restore the relationship between the UK and the US, but it also comes as at a very interesting point in time, because as you can imagine, we just had that shooting at the White House White House Correspondents' Dinner. And there was some concern there whether or not it was safe for the King and the Queen to make their visit. Of course, President Donald Trump, First Lady, they said that they absolutely wanted to make sure that they were going ahead, staying strong, not showing any signs of weakness when this incident hit. And then the King and Queen obviously also came together and said that they felt comfortable enough to come. Now we know that this is going to be a 4-day long visit here. They're going to be seeing a lot of different things in DC. Hopefully we'll get to hear them talk. But for now, I can say that I know they had a tea party a little earlier, very reminiscent, of course, of Great Britain. And as you can see there, that is where they are greeting the King and Queen in the White House South Portico. They are expected to chat over tea in the green room before they went outside, saw a new beehive, which, if you may know, just so happen to know this fun fact, the King and Queen are very into beekeeping. So that's the latest that we have there on that. Again, they're going to spend about 4 days here in the U.S., and this is their first day meeting with the President and the First Lady. Now, we're going to take a quick step back. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that incident that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where we do know that suspect has had his first day in court. His name is Cole Allen. We'll be talking about where he's from, what information we know about him, why he may have done this, all of that and more when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. I did want to let you guys know that I just checked in with our Jenny Joyce just to make sure that everything is okay. There was something happening out there on the scene. And so, of course, we want to tell you guys the news. We want to tell you the story, but we need to be there to be able to tell you the news and what's happening. So safety, I don't care what's happening. Safety is first and foremost. And right now she is safe. So just wanted to give you all that update in case you did just see what happened there. All right, so let's move on to the White House. You know that there was the White House Correspondents' Dinner out in D.C. It happened at a very famous hotel. A lot of people participate in this, but it also happens to be one of those, if you know kind of events. So let's break it all down. First and foremost, what is the White House Correspondents' Dinner? A bunch of journalists get together. This is their time to kind of celebrate all the work that they have been doing, trying to report on the biggest things happening in the White House, happening nationally that pertains to the administration and what the American people need to know about, what to expect with how our country is being run via politics, economics, all the like. We also know that celebrities go to these events every single year. Comedians, usually the seating president goes. However, President Donald Trump had not attended one of these events since 2015. He had kind of been boycotting the event altogether. And then in addition to the journalists that go, the celebrities that go, the other politicians that go, and the comedians that go, there are students there. At these events, they actually give out scholarships and, they acknowledge students who are doing really great work already in the field of journalism. So it's a pretty big deal if you're into media, or maybe you just happen to watch the news one day and then you find out that it's going on. But it happens in DC every single year. It's very exciting. I got to go to one when I was a kid. So with that perspective in mind, when I was watching the news this weekend, and I was actually watching sports, and breaking news came onto the screen, and they let us know that there had been shots fired at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. My mouth fell on the floor. As I remember, this event is extremely security enforced. I remember pulling up to the hotel, and I believe it's at the same hotel every year. I remember pulling up to the hotel, and even outside, there's security seeing you get out of your car. And then, of course, you got to go through layers of the metal detectors and whatnot. So I was just kind of confused as to how this all happened. But then I saw the video. And as you can see, the suspected gunman in this case, you'll see people rushing in and out of this scene. Eventually you see him get body slammed. But the biggest thing is they say that he rushed past security, and you can hear it too, the absolute chaos and mayhem that was happening there. They're going move, move, move as they're trying to get through and keep everyone safe and calm. So this is what's happening on the outside as people are being escorted out of the big room where the dinner's happening. You're seeing guests be escorted outside. But what I can tell you is when you were on the inside, there were so many journalists that had to hunker down and hide under their tables, and they just sat in that room until they were given any indication that they were cleared. So there was a lot of panic, a lot of people just afraid for their lives. So it's also interesting to me to see on, our comment section, a lot of you guys think that this was staged, and I asked why that may be. I got some answers as to maybe it wasn't staged, but they do believe this is supposed to be a distraction from other things going on. And then, of course, some people saying they believe it was staged because perhaps the president just wants to build his ballroom or finish his ballroom. There are a lot of interesting theories that are out there. But one thing that's for certain, as you can see in the picture that was on your screen there, Cole Allen is the man who was tackled, arrested, and has his first day in court. They say that he came all the way from California with the intent to hurt people, more specifically the President of the United States. They say they found a manifesto that had some pretty disturbing entries in it about his disdain for the cabinet itself, some of the policies that they were talking about and whatnot. Now, in addition to learning more about this particular suspect, we got to talk to a neighbor. Fox News interviewed a neighbor who said he knew the family very well. He actually said that he was friends with the suspect's parents. I want to let you listen in some of the information he was able to give us.
I can't tell you anything about him. I just see him coming and going. I assume going to work or school. I don't know what he does.
So no interactions with
I haven't had
the parents?
The parents I'm friends with. I'm friends with his dad. They're very solid, peaceful, good people in the community.
Yeah.
So the only part I saw, because I was at a neighbor's house watching what was going on so I could get back into my house, was I saw the SWAT team show up. There was, I don't know if you guys were here, but there was like 25, 30 SWAT members with a big SWAT truck out front. So we were waiting for them to do that, clear it, make sure that they felt like everything was safe, so that we could get back into our house. After that, then I think they started searching through the house, but I went to sleep after that.
So what can you tell us about this guy?
I don't really know anything about him. I know he lives there. I just know what I've read in the media coverage. I'm friends with his father, and his parents are very peaceful, very good people. But I don't know much about him.
So how long has he lived here?
I was given the estimate of 2 years. It could be longer. It could be 3 or 4. So I did recognize him, yeah, but I was aware of all the commotion first, so that I knew something was going on.
So, but you never talked to him?
I can't remember ever talking to him. I don't even know that I really said hi to him. He kind of kept to himself.
You know that he was teacher of the month?
No.
You didn't know?
I didn't know any of that
But
stuff. I didn't know he was a teacher, to be honest with you.
How does he seem? Like a nice guy, quiet guy?
He's kept to himself, very quiet. Yeah. I can't tell you anything about him. I just see.
Okay, so as he was explaining there, at the very end, he said that he was a quiet guy who kept to himself. Now, we have heard that there were text messages, communications between the suspect and family members in which they said that they were very concerned, that he had expressed that he wanted to do something about some of the feelings that he was having. We also know that they say he rushed in with a number of guns and knives, and I want to be specific. They say that he legally bought a .38 caliber semi-automatic pistol back in October of 2023. And he also bought a 12-gauge shotgun just 2 years later. This is all according to law enforcement officials. They spoke on an anonymity because this is an ongoing investigation. Again, he does have to make his way through court. And so technically everybody should be seen innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. But again, we're seeing some images that we got that same night where they had him tackled on the ground. I believe he was shirtless too. Just a very peculiar scene play out, especially as I mentioned that from what I remember the years ago that I attended as a student, it was heavily guarded, that event. So I wasn't even sure how he was able to make it in, but they did say that he had gotten a hotel room. He had planned to be there for a couple of days. And so maybe he had somehow made his way down through the hotel because that is where the event was taking place. We'll be keeping up with this. We heard that on Thursday he's supposed to be in court again. I'm sure the whole world is going to be watching, so that does include us here on Philadelphia Live. And again, remember that you can interact with us in our live stream chat. We've got a lot of things cooking. But when we come back, one of my colleagues, Jason Martinez, he had a really interesting interview with somebody who was actually in the room this night that this happened. It's Representative Brian Fitzpatrick. We'll hear more on that when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live, you guys. I'm Judea Murray. Just want to give a quick shout out to My Green Closet, Brenda J. Lamore, and Charisma, who have been very interactive lately in our chat. You guys can talk with me amongst each other as well. They are talking on TikTok, but we're also on YouTube. I believe we're also on Facebook, a couple of different places where you can watch. Some of you may even be joining us on the free Fox Local app, which, by the way, is where you can get some of your latest weather forecasts, and of course you'll also be able to see some of our latest stories. So if you're into reading articles, watching news stories about what's going on around you, that's the place that you're going to want to go. All right, now earlier today, one of my colleagues, Jason Martinez, he had a very interesting interview with a man who was actually present during the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. We're talking about Pennsylvania Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, who says he knew immediately what he was hearing when that pew, 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 that bang sound rang out in that ballroom. I want to let you guys listen in as he talks about how he and his fiance, who were in the room together, kind of weathered this storm.
And we're joined now by Representative Brian Fitzpatrick. Representative, first of all, I'm glad you're okay, and we understand that your fiancée, Jackie Heinrich, who we know well here at Fox, was at the head table with the president. What can you tell us about those tense moments that I guess it's about probably a 15, 20-minute window that you'll never forget?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, miraculously, everybody's okay. It's just really a miracle. Jackie was up at the head table, sitting next to the vice president. I was at table 82, so I was in the center aisle, but back towards the door, the ballroom entrance. Which was one level below where the shooter was. So, I heard the gunfire. It's a sound I'm, unfortunately all too familiar with. And I knew exactly what it was. I got our people at my table, I got them to get under the table. And, obviously my first thoughts were on Jackie, because obviously I knew that, anybody that was either in the ballroom already or about to enter would be heading in her direction, since, the president, the first lady, the vice president, basically everybody was up there sitting alongside of her. So that was my main thought at the moment.
Yeah, and you served, you were in the FBI for a long time, so your instincts kicked in to protect and serve, didn't they?
Yeah, of course. And you never, I'm a former agent now, so you never want to get in the way of law enforcement. I knew enough to know that, but to provide some, support, logistical support where I was able to in those moments.
Now, this is the third attempt on our president's life. When will enough be enough?
Yeah, it's just it's really, really unfortunate, and I think it's incumbent upon everybody to ask themselves, what can they be doing different to lower the volume and temperature of the discourse? Everybody needs to ask themselves that question. We are so blessed to live in the greatest country in the world. We're celebrating 250 years of independence. We're the country that everybody in the world wants to come to, and we should be celebrating that. And yet, these internal divisions are really, really putting a strain on the threads of our Constitution. And, we were there celebrating the First Amendment. When we walked into that hotel, we walked through a large group of protesters that are there every year. And that's the right to be there. That's exactly what we were celebrating that night, was people's right to, express their voice and petition the government in a free and fair press as the fourth estate. But we have to resolve our differences through communication and through elections, and not, through acts of violence. So it's just, it's sort of a manifestation of, I think, the climate we're currently operating in. And I do think it's incumbent upon everybody to understand the weight of their words, to, operate within the bounds of the law, express your voice, but never cross that Rubicon where hostile words become hostile actions.
And how do you think we arrived here? I mean, we've got this suspect who I think the president called a deranged lunatic, a crazy, who appears to be a product of the system, not an outcast, somebody who was an educator, an educated man, it appears. I know you've been following this. He was arraigned today, so what can you say about him?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to learn more about him as the process goes forward. He's in the law enforcement system now, so we have to let the law enforcement system play out. What I suspect we're going to see is online radicalization. That's anybody that gets themselves to a point where they're willing to take an action like that clearly is disturbed. The question is, how did they get there? And it could be multiple things, but I can almost guarantee you that social media, played a role in this. We're seeing that a lot, where, when we grew up back in the 70s and 80s, if somebody had an odd view of the world, they were sort of on their own. Now you can find an entire community of people in your area and across the country that subscribe to that, and it emboldens them, and it oftentimes causes them to act out in ways like we saw on Saturday night. So I think we just really need to grasp with the idea of, technology is a good thing. It saves a lot of lives. It connects people that otherwise would never be able to be connected. And some places in the world, it helps, spread democracy, but there's also real risks with it. And I think when you see, a lot of these protest groups that are, start, engaging with, perfectly legal activity, and then it crosses the line into acts of violence that they find ways to justify, by being in an echo chamber or a silo where they just fire each other up and fan the flames of division, you see acts like this. So, I just think, number one, we all have to do our part to lower the volume and temperature of the discourse. bridge a gap between differences, remind all of ourselves and each other that we live in the greatest country in the world. And the only way that we can preserve our country is we're celebrating 250 years of freedom and independence is if we resolve our differences peacefully. That's what makes the United States of America different. We can't, end up acting like some other countries that are, doing the opposite of what we're doing.
Well, we've seen the video of him running in. He's got a gun. Yep. He's sprinting in. He engages with Secret Service agents. Shots are fired. An agent gets shot. Thankfully, it sounds like he's going to be okay. What did you hear? Help us fill in the gaps here. How many shots did you hear, and did you know right away, oh my God, those are gunshots?
Yeah, unfortunately, I know that sound very well. A shotgun sounds different than a handgun, which sounds different than any other sound on this planet. It's a very dull and hollow thud of a sound, which is very distinguishable for me, having been around that my whole life in law enforcement. So I instantly knew it was up. And, within, seconds of that, law enforcement was activated. So, my goal was to, the people that I was seated with, get them under the table, make sure everybody was okay. I told everybody in the tables around me, including Mehmet Oz and his wife were at the table next to me, got him under his table. And then my first thoughts were Jackie, because I knew that dais was going to be a target of whoever this person was.
Gosh, I can't even imagine. There's been a lot of criticism, Representative, about the ballroom, about this location for an event like this, where you've got the vice president there, the president's there, and a lot of people shoved into this confined space that, they can only protect so well. You think they should have it there anymore? Do you think it's time to start talking about another location for this event?
Yeah, this is really the story here, to be honest with you, is that Washington Hilton has been used for decades upon decades for so many high-profile events, including this dinner that's been held there, for the entirety of our lifetimes. That dinner, in fact, has been an annual tradition since the days of Calvin Coolidge. President Reagan, the assassination attempt of him was at this same Hilton. It is the only venue in D.C. that can accommodate upwards of 3,000 people. That's how many people were at this event. So it tends to be the place that all these events are held at. For that same reason, the Secret Service is very, very familiar with this location. They have great relationships built with the staff, with the management. They know every angle of that hotel and of the event space. And I think that's one of the reasons why they were able to suppress that threat so quickly and so successfully. That being said, it raises a huge question of interior versus exterior perimeters for security. And what I mean by that is if you go to Citizens Bank Park, you can't step foot anywhere near the venue without going through a magnetometer. That was not the case here. And just to think about this for a second, you had the entire executive branch of government, all the cabinet officials, tons of members of the House and the Senate, a ton of media journalists and media personalities and media company owners, and so many different people all packed into this room, very limited mobility. To get that many people in the room, there's no room between tables. It made it very, very hard for law enforcement to navigate. It made it hard for people to get out. But most significantly, all the receptions, the pre-dinner receptions, were in the unsecure area outside of the magnetometer. So thank God, my main takeaway was thank God that this gunman did not do what he did an hour earlier, because you would have had all the people that were inside that ballroom out in the unsecure area right where he ran. And that would have been an utter catastrophe. So that's really what I'm thankful for. And as far as the after action report, I think it really raises the specter of the safety of having events like that in a hotel. There are 1,100 rooms in that hotel. And for people to get access to the space, you either needed a ticket to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, or you needed to have gone on to some website and reserved a room at the Washington Hilton for a few $100s a night, and you had access to that space. That's a problem. I know it's convenient for a lot of attendees where they can stay in the hotel as guests themselves, but it creates a real security challenge because, because there were 1,100 hotel guests there, some of which may have been attending the dinner, some were not. Because of that, there was no security at the perimeter of the hotel because you had a lot of hotel guests that were not part of the dinner. So they were allowed to come in, walk through the lobby, walk through the restaurants, walk even in the area where a lot of these receptions were being held with members of the cabinet, by the way. That's a huge problem. So that's really the takeaway, as far as the after action report from a security standpoint.
And I know the president's talked about having another event, bigger and better, he says, so we'll see about the location. Representative Fitzpatrick, thank you for your time. I'm glad you're okay, and I'll send our best to Jackie as well, please.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
He raised a great point when he mentioned that had it happened any sooner, even just an hour sooner, that a ton of people would have been in the same vestibule, per se, that he ran through, and that if his, purpose, what he wanted to do was just harm people in general, that would have been a horrific scene. So we'll keep our eyes on this. Of course, later on this week, he's expected to make another appearance in court. This is Cole Allen that we're talking about here. And when that does happen, of course, we will bring you the latest. I also want to play for you earlier today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. She had a press briefing earlier today as well. This is the first press briefing after the shooting took place. I want to play the intro for you. She came out hot. Let's listen.
Saturday was supposed to be a joyful evening, celebrating free speech and the First Amendment with all of you, members of the press. Instead, the night was hijacked by a crazed anti-Trump individual who traveled across the country to assassinate the president and as many administration officials as possible. This is the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in 2 years. No other president in history has faced such repeated, serious attempts on his life. First and foremost, the president, the first lady, and everyone in this White House are extraordinarily grateful to the brave law enforcement professionals who sprang into action to apprehend the would-be assassin and keep all of us safe. The president would especially like to express his gratitude to the men and women of the United States Secret Service who acted with the utmost professionalism, courage, and sense of duty. This includes the heroic agent who took a bullet to the chest. Thankfully, he was saved by his bulletproof vest. Minutes after returning here to the White House to the Oval Office, despite fighting Secret Service to try to stay and keep the dinner going on Saturday, ahead of addressing you here in the briefing room, President Trump was intent on speaking to this brave agent to ensure he was okay, and the agent assured the president that he was. As you know, I was seated next to President Trump and the First Lady when the shots were fired before Secret Service swiftly moved us to safety backstage. The president's calm in the face of chaos, while yet another individual was trying to take his life, was really remarkable to witness, and it's something I will never forget. President Trump is fearless because he loves this country, and he is willing to put his own life on the line to deliver on the promises that he made to the American public who elected him here into the highest office in the land. And while we are blessed to have a fearless president, we should not live in a country where such constant fear of political violence permeates our society every single day. We can and we should have fierce disagreement in this country. As you all know, we disagree often, myself in this role and all of you in the news media, but those disagreements must remain peaceful. Debating, peaceful protesting, and voting are how we need to settle disagreements, not bullets. Nobody in recent years has faced more bullets and more violence than President Trump. This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. This hateful and constant and violent rhetoric directed at President Trump day after day after day for 11 years has helped to legitimize this violence and bring us to this dark moment. Those who constantly falsely label and slander the president as a fascist, as a threat to democracy, and compare him to Hitler to score political points are fueling this kind of violence. The left-wing cult of hatred against the president and all of those who support him and work for him has gotten multiple people hurt and killed, and it almost did so again this weekend. When you read the manifesto of this shooter, ask yourselves, how different is the rhetoric from this almost assassin than what you read on social media and hear in various forums every single day? The answer, if you're being honest with yourself, is that there is no difference at all. Much of the manifesto of the would-be assassin is indistinguishable from the words that we hear daily from so many. For example, as the First Lady of the United States pointed out this morning, just 2 days prior to the shooting, ABC's late-night host Jimmy Kimmel disgustingly called First Lady Melania Trump an expectant widow. Who in their right minds says a wife would be glowing over the potential murder of her beloved husband? And having experienced what I did with the First Lady on Saturday night, I can tell you that she was anything but that. This kind of rhetoric about the president, the First Lady, and his supporters is completely deranged, and it's unbelievable that the American people are consuming it night after night after night. As President Trump said on Saturday night at this podium, we as Americans must recommit ourselves to resolving our differences peacefully and uniting around the shared values that make our country great. The deranged lies and smears against the president, his family, his supporters have led crazy people to believe crazy things, and they are inspired to commit violence because of those words. It has to stop. And one more point. Saturday night served as yet another reminder of how important it is to fund the Department of Homeland Security. It is shameful that the United States Congress has kept this vital agency defunded for 73 days, the longest shutdown of a federal agency in U.S. history. The Secret Service is a vital component of DHS. It has been directly impacted by this reckless political gamesmanship. Everyone in this room who was there on Saturday night witnessed the heroes of Secret Service and federal law enforcement jump into action in the face of grave danger and uncertainty. Agents put their own lives in harm's way to protect the president, the First Lady, the Vice President, and members of the cabinet. One agent can be seen in video footage literally jumping onto the stage, not knowing where the attacker was or where the bullets were coming from at that point, to place his body in front of the President of the United States. These men and women are heroes. They perform their duties daily, and they have children and families too, and they do it despite the political turmoil surrounding their agency. Make no mistake, this defunding of DHS should be a national scandal. If Republicans defunded DHS and we saw another attempted assassination on a Democrat president, I would hope that the media coverage would be relentless and unforgiving, and I hope that it continues to be now. With the World Cup, America 250, the 2028 Olympics, and a presidential election all ahead, the Democrats' obstruction is placing an enormous and totally pointless burden on the Secret Service that can get more people killed. Enough is enough. There should be no further debate about this. Democrats need to do what President Trump has been calling on them to do for 73 days in a row and fund the Department of Homeland Security, period. This is a national emergency, and every member of Congress needs to put their country over party and get the Department of Homeland Security funded. Saturday was...
All right, so we're taking a live look out in Los Angeles. One of our sister stations is providing this image that you're taking a look at. It was a high-speed chase. Wow. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 officers coming to apprehend this suspect. When I tell you, when we first got this video, that car was speeding, and then at some point the suspect must have gotten out of the car. He was walking down that sidewalk. He put his hands up. He got down on the ground, and literally we saw it happen. This is live, happening in California as we speak. We saw those officers together roll up on that individual. What this person is wanted for, I don't know. This is brand new video coming into us from our sister station out there in California. I'll be looking during the commercial break to see what information we have, if any, about this particular incident, but when I saw it, we had to go to it to show you all. We'll be talking more about what happened with the White House Correspondents' Dinner in just a little bit. And if our sports team can hear me, I want to let them know we're going to sit on this for just a few more minutes. The chopper does seem like it's getting ready to leave. So you guys, when we come back, we'll be talking about the Flyers. They're having a huge, incredible night tonight. I think that's the car that the suspect may have been in. understand how he got from there to where we just saw him at, but just, again, wild scene that is unfolding before us. Again, I'm going to be checking to see if our sister station has more information for us to give us some context to what you're seeing there, but we had to dip into it live together. This is Philadelphia Live after all. All right, when we come back, again, we're going to be talking about the Flyers. Huge night for them, talking about what's at stake with our Marcus Beasley. We'll be right back. All right, welcome to Philadelphia Live, you guys. I'm Judea Murray. When we left off, we were seeing this insane car chase that ended with a man coming out on the sidewalk. He was walking, he put his arms up, then he was on the ground, and he was swarmed by police officers. Well, this all's happening out in Los Angeles area. Our sister station has given us these live pictures. I do believe that may have been the car that was involved in the high-speed chase that we had seen a little earlier on. And again, it seems like that car has now been disabled, as we did see the man, the suspect in this case, walking off. All right, so now I promised that I would try to find a little bit more information for you guys. Sky Fox from Los Angeles was flying over the scene. The suspect was in that red car. They said they led California Highway Patrol on a chase earlier today, and it continued as of 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, so their time. Over the course of that chase, they say the suspect drove through various parts of downtown Los Angeles, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, and Mount Washington before pulling over below a bridge. You're taking a look at where he pulled over on the 110 freeway near Cypress Park a little after, again, that 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. They say after he ditched that car, he tried to run away from the scene. Unfortunately, he eventually ran out of breath, and then he had to give up when the cops spotted him on foot out there in Lincoln Heights. So very insane, wild scene that we are breaking apart there. Again, you're taking a live look at the vehicle that suspect, they say, abandoned before trying his luck on foot. Clearly, that was not the way to go. He was apprehended, and we saw that live right here on Philadelphia Live. All right, let's get back into some hyper-local news. What's actually happening around us that may affect you? If you are a Flyers fan, whew, blood pressure is probably through the roof. It is a very exciting game. I mean, even for Penguins fans. I want to check in with our sports team. Marcus, I trust you have been keeping your eyes on what's going on there. What's the score looking like?
There has actually been a lot of things that have happened since you actually talked to Scott about an hour ago. So right now, as I'm looking at the game, it is 3-2 Penguins. We are about 25 seconds left in the second period, so I'll let you know when the period ends in terms of when we go into intermission. So here's what happened since we last spoke with you. So the Flyers were up 1-0 when we spoke, and then Connor Dewar for the Penguins, he scored and making it 2-0. Then 12 seconds later, rookie Alex Bump from the Flyers, he then gets his first career playoff goal to make it 2-1. About 15 minutes, I'd say, Travis Sanheim then scores to tie it at 2-2, and I'm getting ready to talk to you. Everything's all fun. And then the weirdest thing happens. Chris Letang with a slap shot goes wide. The puck bounces to the back of Dan Vladar, the Flyers goalie, and then Vladar backs up, and then the puck crosses the line, making it 3-2 Penguins. It's weird. For the second game in a row, Dan Vladar has had the weirdest or the worst luck in the playoffs in regards to a couple of key goals. On Saturday, he pretty much fell asleep behind the net and lost possession to where the Penguins took advantage, and then the Flyers chased him all through Game 4. Now this time, they were tied 2-2. Dan Vladar backs up while he's trying to find the puck and then ends up bumping the puck back in for the go-ahead goal as of right now. It is 3-2. We just entered intermission as we end the second period, but this game has been crazy, Judea.
I mean, just hearing you talk about it, I got chills.
Yeah.
We are telling people the score. We're hoping that things pan out a little better in our favor in the next couple of minutes, hour. I don't know how much time we have left in the game. But hey,
there's 20 minutes. When we go into the third period, it'll be about 20 minutes. So plenty of time of time for the Flyers to make a move.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me ask you this, Marcus, because, you know, when they say like 20 minutes in football, they don't mean that. So what does 20 minutes in hockey really mean?
See, it's hard because if it's like the first period, I would say it's about 45 to 50 minutes, even though it's 20. It could probably be a little more just because when it comes to the third period, I mean, there's a lot of timeouts, there's a lot of breaks, there's teams doing substitutions, whether or not we get empty net or goalies are leaving the nets, or just it could be a high scoring just because of how crucial this period will be, especially in the playoffs. So, yeah, I get it. I mean, 20 minutes of game time is much different than 20 minutes in real life. So I would probably say I'd give it like 45 to 50, give it or take another like 5 minutes maybe.
Okay, well, hey, that could potentially mean that maybe we're looking at another situation here where you're actually live calling the game for us.
Yeah, that was something. That was something. And I mean, if we get the pleasure of doing that, then awesome. But hopefully that luck rubs off. It's not just me. I mean, that was a team effort between you and I. So that was team. We were the dream team on that one.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were. Okay, so. While we're talking about the Flyers, I know that's very important, but there are some other big things happening too. First and foremost, can we jump to the Eagles real quick? Because I heard we just signed somebody who's never played, what is it, organized football or professional football? What is it?
He's a part of the, I believe it's called the International Partner Play or something. It's IPP. I can't remember the exact organization,
not
but
traditional.
Yes, it's kind of like a Jordan Mailata situation from years ago, where we got Uar Bernard. He is a 21 Nigerian athlete. He was actually discovered as a basketball player. He went into the system and he did well in his scouting report. He had, I believe, a 4.6 40-yard dash. He had a great vertical jump. Physically, he is a specimen, and Howie Roseman in the 7th round in the 251st pick of the draft signs this kid. And the guy has never played a down in his career. He is, like I said, he's built, but he's not very familiar with football. And Howie Roseman, like I said, he's done this years ago with Jordan Mailata, who was just a rugby player. Now, there were similarities between rugby and football. This time it's much different, and Bernard's going to be a defensive tackle for the Eagles. So, I mean, realistically, you got to plug holes and sack the quarterback when you're in this position. But it's going to be very interesting to see this kid. Hopefully he makes the team by the time cuts come, to see what he can do. I mean, the preseason's going to be fun enough just to see what he does, but hopefully he makes the roster so that way, you know, the world can know about him the way that we know about Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, I think too, like, first and foremost, this is going to be fun just to watch, as you mentioned. But I saw somewhere that he's like almost 250, but like 6% body fat. Like, the guy's going to be a tank no matter what.
I did see that, yeah, and it's not going to be fun when he hits somebody. It's not, but it's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, no.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I do have to cut our chat short only because I see that LA live stream that they've got going up.
It's the first time since your vacation, and you're cutting our conversation short.
I'm
You know
so
what?
sorry. You guys, we're going to see Marcus again soon.
Nope,
no
nope.
hard feelings.
Nope, we're done. We're done. We're done.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to make the tough calls. Turning our attention to Los Angeles, you guys were really interested in seeing what was happening here. Okay, we've got a live look from the back of that red vehicle that I was telling you about out in Los Angeles. We were taking a live look. There was a suspect leading a high-speed chase, and they say that he abandoned the car underneath a bridge. I'm sorry, are we looking at a dog in the back of this car? I know I'm not tripping. There is something that is moving on the left-hand side. Yeah. Okay. Well, somehow, some way, maybe there was a dog involved in this chase as well. A very peculiar situation that we're getting visuals from Sky Fox. That's the chopper, the helicopter for our sister station, Fox 11. We're getting this live image from them. Thankfully, they shared it with us. So again, what they're saying here is that this started as a high-speed police chase in Los Angeles. They say that suspect drove through parts of downtown LA, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, Mount Washington, and then pulled over below a bridge on the 110 freeway near Cypress Park a little after 5:30 p.m. their time. That's Pacific time that we're talking about. Now, they say after ditching that car, the suspect tried to run away from the scene, but ran out of breath. So his feet weren't much better than the car. I don't know why he switched. They say that the cops, the police, they spotted him while he was on foot in Lincoln Heights. And then when we first got to this live scene, we actually saw him walking down the roadway there, putting his hands up, getting down on the ground, and then being swarmed by the officers. So again, I think at that time we saw 6 officers around him. It looks like 5 are investigating that vehicle. And again, I believe that that was a dog. It's interesting to me that they're not trying to restrain the dog, but it also looks like the dog is just sitting in that one spot. I don't know if maybe he's already leashed on the inside of the vehicle or just really well behaved and trained. See, the chopper knows what I'm looking for too. They're zooming in to see what it is, and I see a little furry ear. I think we were looking at a dog there, you guys. As we get more information about this, if this live scene does stay up, trust and believe we will stick around with it. But just very, very bizarre. Unfortunately, not much more information that we're getting from that scene there. I'm trying to pick it apart live with you guys too. Matter of fact, what are you guys saying in the chat? All right, so someone says, yes, that's a dog or some kind of pet. Someone said, did he run out of gas? No, he ran out of breath. That's what he ran out of. Actually, you know, maybe that is a good point. Maybe the car ran out of gas. That's information that I just don't have right now. I don't know why he decided to leave the vehicle or abandon the car underneath that bridge there. Or maybe he thought that being on foot, maybe he could elude the police a little better. But like I said, did not work out in his favor at all. Again, they're trying to zoom in on some of the things that they're taking out of the car, or maybe just investigating. They're doing a full search and potentially seizure with this vehicle here. Now they're digging into the trunk. I couldn't really tell what that thing on the bottom was. It kind of looked like a blanket or of something of some sort. The coloring is off, but it looks maybe like a pink bag. That's what looks like they're ruffling through, either a bag or a blanket, maybe a sleeping bag. And no information as to why this person was leading that chase. By the way, it was about a half-hour long police chase that we were talking about here. No information as to why that person was running. But again, If we do get that, we'll get back on out to it. You guys, we're going to take a quick step back. We've got some big news happening closer to home. We know that there's the school district trying to weigh its options on whether or not it should cut a really important after-school program. We'll be touching base with some of the community members who maybe some are on board with it, some not so hot. We'll talk with our reporter on what's really going on there when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray, and I don't know about you guys, but growing up, I was a latchkey kid. So that meant when my mom was still working after school, she was a teacher, we would come home, get off the bus, and we had a key to get in the house. And taught us responsibility, but there are some other kids who don't necessarily have that same luxury of, I guess, being home alone. Some of them, parents are really dependent on sending them to after-school programs. We heard that there's one local school district that is weighing its options on whether or not it should defund one of its programs. The question is why, and what's the community doing about it? I want to touch base with Shawnette Wilson. She's one of our reporters who's been out there live. Shawnette, I can imagine that this is a touchy situation for some people, but what are you hearing?
So we're at Upper Dublin High School, Judea, and they are having a regular board meeting tonight. But a lot of community members and parents have packed into this meeting hoping to be able to speak about this issue during public comment. It isn't on the agenda tonight, but this is just something that is very important to them. So as you can imagine, any opportunity that they have to speak before the school board, which is, you know, who's going to make this decision on whether or not to defund the center, they're going to take that opportunity. So from what I understand, the lady who does programming for the North Hills Community Center says that she found out back in January that the school board was looking to, stop funding to this community center. This is a community center that has been around for more than 30 years. You know, they have kids come after school, they help them with homework, they do mentorship, they have other programs, athletics. So she found out in January that they were talking about cutting funding. Now she says that the reason why they're doing it hasn't been extremely clear, but what she has heard is that maybe the board isn't completely satisfied with the academics that are happening here at the center in terms of how successful it is. Is it really making a difference in terms of them helping kids with homework and their academics? So since January, the community has come out to meetings. They've been talking to the superintendent as well to try to save their community center. So let's listen right now to a little bit of what someone from the center said and also a parent that I was able to talk to earlier today.
It's a lot of grief, especially for us as parents, community advocates, the kids. You know, they're uneasy about whether they're going to have this program for next year and even for summer camp, because it's something that a lot of kids for the past 20 plus years have thrived in for so long. And it's kind of been a staple in this neighborhood, especially in the community center.
It's very disappointing. I mean, I don't understand. I'm not sure what they're measuring to see what's making the program effective or not. But all the children, again, it's a nice, safe environment. They get their after-school work assistance. They get to play with each other, make new friends. It's a good program. It makes no sense for it to be cut.
So that last woman we just heard from, her name is Nicole McDowell, and I bumped into her outside of the community center today. She was picking up her granddaughter, who is 9 years old. Her name is Autumn. She was picking her up. Autumn goes to the community center 4 days a week, which is when they're open. She says that her granddaughter absolutely loves it. I actually spoke with Autumn as well, and she enjoys it. There were quite a bit of kids coming out today when we were there. Judea, I was told that maybe 24 or so kids come through there the 4 days a week that they're open. So it seems like, you know, this is a program that, you know, a lot of these families say is helpful to them. Again, the school board is still meeting right now. I did reach out to them. We're waiting to hear back from them on, you know, where things stand. But what we do know is that there's no vote on this coming up like right now. We may not know anything until June, which is when they are going to be tasked with, you know, finalizing their budget. And then that is when the center expects to learn its fate for the after-school program. And as you heard her say, also the summer program could be in jeopardy, Judea.
Well, actually, I did miss that last piece, and that was going to be my silver lining, that at least it's giving families the time to try to figure things out for the rest of the school year. But if one of the potential programs that could be cut if it was defunded would be the summer program, that completely defeats the purpose.
Yeah, and I mean, we're hearing a lot of different things. And again, I want to stress that, you know, we haven't heard back from the school board as of yet. But what we've been, you know, hearing is that it's possible that, you know, the district wants to take over this program and run it in-house. So like, you know, out of one of the schools. Right now, the district, I know, provides transportation for these kids from their school to get to the center every single day. So, you know, and they own the building, so they have a hand in this. But, you know, some people are thinking that perhaps they are looking at bringing the program inside the school, and that way they can, you know, keep an eye on the curriculum, you know, the help that these kids are receiving, and it would be, you know, more aligned with what is happening inside the school. That is just what, you know, some of the workers at the center are saying that they're hearing. So, you know, it would still, it could still survive, but then on the other side of that, if they do it that way, you know, the parents are saying, well, transportation, you know, for kids who, you know, let's say you're a kid and you're doing sports, you know, or let's just say you're a kid who lives in the community, but you're not necessarily one of the schools, the kids that go to one of the schools that use the center, because apparently there's like, I think 3 schools in the district and only 2 of the schools use that center, and it's for the younger kids. So more of like kindergarten through the elementary school grade. So you can move it around, but then there's, you know, other pieces of the puzzle that have to be figured out as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where somebody somewhere is going to have to lose in order to make something shake, something work. There are a lot of...
You just hope it can survive. I mean, it's a tight-knit community. I'm sorry, I think we cut each other off a little bit. I'm sorry about
it's a delay.
But, you know, it's a small, North Hills is a small, you know, tight-knit community. It's a really small town in Montgomery County. And so, you know, they are really trying their hardest just to keep it there. It's been in the community so long. The building is, you know, historic. So they just really want to keep it there and keep it in their community where it's always been.
My question would be, and I'm not sure if we have an answer to it just yet, because this isn't a finite thing that we're talking about here. But whether there's some things that could be put into place, give me a second because I'm also hearing myself. Whether or not, if this program were to be defunded, if it, we're no longer a thing, are there some alternatives for kids in that community? You said it was Montgomery County, and it's a pretty small area, so I'm just wondering if there are alternatives for these kids.
I mean, again, right now, the the word on the street is just that if the school district, takes control of the program, it would be in the school, so that, it would be, I guess, a part of you leave school and wherever they house the program is, wherever they're housing the program is where you would be. But we don't know for certain that that is what they're planning to do. I can't imagine that they would just, jump ship on an after school program that's helping kids with homework and all these sorts of things. But, on the flip side of this, if there is a concern on the school board's part that, hey, what are the kids learning? Are they getting quality help? That is, that could be a real concern. I don't know that. I'm just, saying that if they have concerns about the academics, which is what I was told, that is certainly something to be looked at. So, again, we'll provide an update as soon as we hear back from them, just to give, the balance and the real perspective here as to why they are considering this. But June would be, the date in which, they would probably learn, which is also pretty late because there's summer camp. There's summer camp is just as big as after school programs. What do you do
Sometimes
for
bigger.
working families? During the summer, when they have a neighborhood camp that they could go to. So we'll see. Tough situation when we talk about school budgets and what to cut. Bill and I were talking about this on the 4 o'clock show earlier today, Judea, how this is something that a lot of districts are facing about, they've got to balance a budget, but, they've got these holes in the budget, and where do you take it from?
Yeah. And usually we see that the arts are the first one to go, so I'm just shocked that we're hearing about a program like this one. But I also understand that I tend to jump the gun because I just have all these questions, but you're also keeping us balanced as the journalists, giving us the full scope. So we are definitely going to keep our eyes on what's happening out there, especially once they do start making some decisions.
Oh, yeah, they're all valid questions. I have the same questions. So, again, as soon as we hear back from the board, we can kind of, make sure we get their side correctly as to why this is something they're even considering.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Shauna, joining us. Our chat actually was really interested in your story in particular. A lot of people weighing in, saying a couple of different things. I won't express them here on the chat because they're very, very passionate and opinionated, but they're very interested in seeing how your story turns out. All right. Well, all right.
We'll see you
check
at 10.
base with you a little later. See you at 10. All right, you guys, we're going to take a quick step back. There are a lot of big headlines that I want to run through with you all. Things that are happening close to home. We're going to be talking about this spa raid all the way in Delaware, but how that may be affecting even some of us here in Philadelphia. And then also there was an attack at Temple University. We'll be talking about how those students are doing. And last but not least, a big person in hip hop, Jam Master Jay. We heard about his murder in 2002, and now we may have some more answers as to how he actually died. We'll touch base with all of that and more when we come back. All right, welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. Let's go over some of the biggest things happening in our area. Starting out in Delaware, we heard that 2 spas are under investigation. This is all happening, as I mentioned, out in Delaware. You're taking a look at the Newcastle County Police Department's Facebook page, where they posted the images of these people and what they believe they seized from each of their locations. So what are we talking about here? Police say that they're searching for, bless you. We got to sneeze in the newsroom real quick. Okay, so here's what we're talking about here. This is called Operation Coast to Coast. And even though they really broke the news here in Delaware, they're saying that it targeted human trafficking in 30 states. This all happening this past Thursday. Newcastle County detectives, they searched for 2 Delaware spas. They arrested 3 people, the 3 people that you see there on your screen. They also seized cash, gold, and even vehicles. And they're hoping that any potential trafficking victim out there, anyone who may know a little bit more information about this, who may have, been a patron at one of these spas and saw something a little fishy, they're hoping any of you come forward. And they want to remind you that no matter how small you think that detail may have been, it may help them try to crack this case. So in this operation, they identified 129 victims all across the United States, including 11 minors and even a pregnant adult. And according to officers, their investigation also showed that they detained 86 adult males, they arrested 53 sex buyers, and they executed 108 search warrants, including 36 at illicit massage businesses like the 2 there in Delaware that you're seeing on your screen. So now, throughout this entire investigation, remember, coast to coast, they say they seized more than $500,000 in criminal assets. So that's cash, gold, silver, and the vehicles that I was telling you about. In Newcastle County, more specifically, detectives said that they searched TH Rainbow Spa in Wilmington and a relaxing Asian/Moon Spa in Newark. So again, if you went to any of those spas, maybe you saw something that didn't quite sit right with you and you can't exactly tell why it didn't sit right with you, that may be something that you want to tell the police. They're trying to get more information and maybe even be able to find some of these potential sex trafficking victims. Now, they say that they found evidence of sexual acts being offered for money at both of the locations that I just mentioned. And again, they have the images of the people that have been taken into custody. So this is on their Facebook page. If you'd like to read a little bit more, they go into depth about what they have found, and not just at those 2 locations, but what they have found during this operation in general. And you may be interested in learning a little bit more about that situation. But let's move on to, let's skip around. Let's move on to Jam Master Jay. So back in 2002, first and foremost, actually, let's go over the name there. Huge icon. We're talking about member of Run DMC. So back in 2002, he was killed at his recording studio. And they say that for decades they were trying to figure out who did this, because as we know, I think it was a group of people that ran into this location. I think we've got some video of, yeah, let's show you guys who we're talking about there. Jam Master Jay. So again, they say that a group of people ambushed Jason Mazel, that's his real name, back at his recording studio. And so for decades, the family didn't really have much closure as to why this happened, who did it. But earlier this week, and they heard that Jay Bryant, 52 years old, he pleaded guilty not to actually pulling the trigger in this ambush, but he says that he told a judge that he helped other people get into that recording studio so they could ambush him. He says that he knew that they had a gun and knew what it would be used for. He said that he knew that it was a crime. He knew that what he was doing was wrong. He admitted to all of this in court. Now, while that admission is nice because it gives some sort of closure to the family, to friends, anybody who was just trying to figure out what happened that night, it also adds a little bit of complexity, it makes this a little bit more complex because he didn't name any of the people that he's saying he helped ambush this young man there. So we're trying to figure out a little bit more about this case. Can tell you that back in 2024, a jury convicted 2 other men. One of those guys has actually been cleared of this case. One is trying to get his records cleared, trying to challenge his conviction, but so far and so forth, he is still in jail. And we know that Bryant, the guy who just pleaded guilty, is expected to face a sentence somewhere between 15 to 20 years in prison. That penalty would cover the killing plus unrelated drug and gun charges, to which he also pleaded guilty to earlier. So far, no sentencing has been set, but I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people, a lot of hip hop heads especially, looking into this. All right, I'm taking a look at our time. We've got about 2 minutes. Let me run through this incident that happened at Temple University real quick for you all. It's one of the big things that people are talking about here in Philadelphia. A group, they say, tracked down a student, a Temple University student, before beating him down in his dorm room, or not dorm room, his dormitory. So police say that they're searching for members of this violent group. They say they chased and beat a Temple University student at a residence hall when he refused to sell them his shoes. So this is about 3 a.m. that we're talking about here. Officials say that that group approached the young man. He's 20 years old. It was April 20th when this all happened. This is the 1500 block of Broad Street. Again, just before 3 a.m. It's very early in the morning. They say that group approached the young man. They asked him how much his shoes cost, asked if they could buy them from him. He said no. And they say that group then started punching him and chasing him. He chased him actually into a dormitory. And you can actually see, I wish I had the video for you guys, but you can actually see from the surveillance image when they come into that area, it's like right by security. They just, with masks on and everything, just ran in there and like wailed on him. And so they're trying to figure out, even though those people were masked, even though they're wearing dark clothing, that maybe someone watching the video knows something that could help them try to crack this case. I'm sure the young man's family would love for that to happen. But so far, so far we don't have more information on that. Now, how hurt was the victim? Because I just mentioned that a group of guys tried to hurt him. They say he sustained a cut to his upper lip and he injured his right hand. Other than that, we don't have any more information on how badly he may have been hurt in this incident. But again, anyone who may have information, because this did happen, Temple University is involved, they're asking that you contact the Philadelphia Police Department, hoping that they can bring that family, that young man, some justice. Now, here's one thing. I told you that they were trying to buy his shoes or take the shoes off him. Officials say that nothing was stolen from this individual. So that's that on that. Now, I'm taking a look. It looks like she's ready. We've got our weather report with the amazing Kathy Orr. Kathy, I hear that it was pretty cold while I was out on vacation, but today wasn't that bad. Is that going to last for the week?
Well, listen, thank you for bringing that back with you, and it's so great to have you back, Judea. What a day. Yes, today, the best day that we've had since last week. And yeah, we had a couple very warm days last week, 79, 80 degrees. But over the weekend, things just weren't so great. Rain on Saturday. Sunday was cloudy, ended up being sunny in the afternoon, but what a nice day today. You just can't beat it. The normal high is 69. By the end of the week, that average high will be 70 degrees. And we did quite well today. Philadelphia, Wilmington, even Reading in the 70s, AC at the airport, and Trenton in the 60s. Even Allentown made it to 71. So a really nice day everywhere. As we look at the radar, you can see dry conditions, very light winds, and they're off the ocean. And that typically brings us some cooler air. It's not going to happen that much tonight because that wind is light. It's not going to have a big impact on temperatures. Overnight tonight in the 40s. So yes, wake up tomorrow morning, head out the door. It will be cool to start, but by late morning, it's already close to 60 degrees. And then by noon, we're in the 60s. By the afternoon, mid to upper 60s. But you'll notice the clouds increase during the day because the next weather system is in the Midwest, and that's going to bring rain, about a ½ inch to an inch of rain, and we definitely need it. It also will bring cool temperatures for your Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in the 60s when average highs are around 70 degrees. But hey, that's not so bad. The best rain chance is definitely going to be Wednesday into early Thursday morning, and then dry as we go into the weekend. So this is how the rain's going to play out. Dry for Tuesday, dry for most of the day Wednesday. Then as we get into Wednesday, into the afternoon and the evening, scattered showers moving in toward the dinner hour, north and west, and then potential for a line of showers, maybe a few embedded thunderstorms to come through during the evening, and behind it, drier air, and the skies begin to clear during those early morning hours of Thursday. So if we time it out, The day, for the most part, is dry on Wednesday. The rain moves in late afternoon. It continues into the evening. We need the rain. We're in a moderate drought right now, so this is welcome rain. And then overnight Thursday, that precipitation comes to an end and skies begin to clear. So we look at the amounts of rain. That American model that we talk about a lot, especially in the winter, has about 1/4 of an inch of rain, not much. The European model, rather, is 1.24, so like an inch more. So it's really between 1/2 an inch and an inch if you average out those computer models. They're not handling this situation well. They're not really coming into agreement yet with that rain. As we look at the 7-day forecast, we're talking about 60s for most of the week. And then Friday is May Day, May 1st, and it's going to be decent, a little cool in the mid-60s, but compared to what we've been through over the past several months with cold temperatures and frosts and freezes, 65 is pretty good. And then we have a chance of rain Saturday. Sunday looks nice at 62, and Monday near 70 again. So I think that first week of May is going to be encouraging, back in the upper 60s and 70s, Judea. So I think May is going to be very pleasant around here. But something that can happen in the Philadelphia area and South Jersey in May that's special to the area, you could say, is sometimes we get coastal systems, low pressure systems that just spin off the coast and can bring days of cloudy skies to South Jersey, maybe even Delaware and Philadelphia, and elsewhere it's beautiful. We get these systems that kind of stall off the coast, and if that happens, we could get into a gloomy scenario for part of May, but so far things are looking good.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because this will be new for me. When those coastal systems happen and we are looking at cloudier skies, are we also looking at cooler temperatures, or does it tend to still be warm, maybe just a little humid? What do really walk through it with me?
So since we're so far north, it's typically not humid yet because it's still cool in May, and these systems kind of just stall off the coast. So it's not like a nor'easter, because it's not super windy, and it's not like a hurricane because you're not dealing with rain and wind, but it's just an area of low pressure that kind of just gets stuck because we're between spring and summer, and that tends to happen in the month of May. So typically you'd think, oh wow, great, May, it's getting warm, it's going to be beautiful, and typically we do see these stalled low pressure systems as we get closer to the summer season.
Okay, so keep the sweaters out, don't pack them away just yet, even if you do see those 69, 70 degree temperatures, as you know, you never know what can happen, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, it's still a little bit of a wild card. How about the light sweaters? You can put away the cashmere and the wool. Yeah, keep the cardigan.
Okay, sounds good. I love talking weather with you. As you know, I'm trying to learn more about this area. I am from, as you know, upstate, and it's really a mixed bag up there. But, you know, Philly is its own thing. New Jersey is its own thing. So I'm learning a lot by listening to you and Scott.
We're here for you.
Thanks. All right, you guys, let's take a quick step back. It is a gorgeous night, as Kathy was just telling us, a gorgeous night to beat the Penguins. We're going to check in on how the Flyers are doing. We'll also talk about a couple of our other big sports teams and, you know, how things are developing when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. The Flyers are taking on the Penguins tonight. This is Game 5. There's a lot at stake. I want to get right on out to Scott. He is live for us in the studio. We have been keeping our eyes on the score, but tell us what's going on at this point in time.
Well, they're down to the final, just under 10 minutes to go in the game, and the Flyers are down 3-2. Right now, the difference in the game is another fluke goal given up by the Flyers. Puck bounced off the boards towards the goalie, Dan Vladar, off his skate, and then it was between his legs. He had no idea, and ultimately it went in the goal. Right now, that's the difference in the game. But the Flyers are putting a lot of pressure on the Penguins right now, trying to even it up. They're down 3-2 in the third period. As I said, just under 10 minutes to go. Flyers trying to end the series. If they don't, they'll get another chance to do that back here at home Wednesday night.
We're watching from home. Do you get the sense that the fans out there in the stands are still feeling, optimistic about this game tonight? I mean, it's only 1 point, and we still have quite some time left.
Yeah, I look, this one's not over, not by any stretch. I feel like, and we were just talking about this out here in the newsroom, I feel like there's going to be another goal in this game. Obviously, it matters who gets it. If it's the Flyers, it would tie the game up, and then who knows where it goes. If it's the Penguins, that probably would end it at 4-2, and then you say, okay, you start looking ahead to Game 6. But right now, I mean, there's definitely a lot of, it seems like the Penguins are trying to play a lot of good defense right now, and they seem content with this 1-goal lead, while the Flyers are still attacking pretty hard for obvious reasons. They need another goal. So we'll see what gives. The Flyers certainly right now look like they're skating with a little bit more energy and speed. We'll see if that matters.
Okay. Scott, I gotta pick your brain about this. I did ask Marcus while I had him. The Eagles did just sign that new player. I'm switching gears here. They just signed that new player, and to my understanding, he doesn't have any formal training in, I guess, professional football. So what was the thought process there? Is this a good decision?
It's a 7th round draft pick. So once you get to the 7th round, and you're talking about those kind of late picks, they are guys who are not refined. They're not maybe NFL ready right now, but what they can be is a project that could end up paying huge dividends down the road. A comp for that would be Jordan Mailata. The Eagles did that with him. He was a rugby player who was inexperienced with American football and the rules, but they saw him, his size, his athleticism for a guy that big, and said, you know what, we think we can develop that. And sure enough, they have. He's a starting left tackle in the league right now, one of the best in the league. So they have experience doing this. So you look at this guy from Nigeria, and the Eagles seem like they are ready to take on that project. He's a freak with his speed for the kind of size that he has. He can move. He needs to understand how to be able to move football-wise, and that's where they're going to have to develop him. Don't expect him to come in here and be a freak of nature in his first year. It's going to take time. It took Jordan Mailata time, but it's a risk. Not really a risk. It's an investment that the Eagles are ready to make, and they feel like they can pay dividends with it in the end. And if they don't, it was a 7th round draft pick. They really didn't lose anything by trying. So low risk, very high reward if they can hit on it.
Yeah, I mentioned that Marcus, this guy's going to be a tank on the field no matter what. If, he does make it that far. I actually didn't know the player that you guys have been telling me about before. Tell me his name one more time. Jordan Mailata?
Jordan Mailata, he is from Australia, and he played rugby, was a great rugby player, was a freak with the ball in rugby. Now he's trying to keep people from getting to his quarterback who has the ball, and he's doing a great job with it. He's one of the best in the league at left tackle, so they've shown that they can develop this kind of talent.
Yeah. You know what they say, it's never too late to be what you could have been, so it's always a chance. All right, we've been talking about the Flyers. We talked about the Eagles. Scott, I went to my first Phillies game yesterday.
Good.
Out in Atlanta. It wasn't a very good one.
No.
We tried.
No.
We tried.
Yeah, the Phillies right now are. It's a good thing it's a long season because right now I think they can't wait for April to be over. They've lost 12 of their last 14. They were off today. They did not lose today. This is good news. But they, we've been watching and wondering, was there going to be any changes made to the coaching staff, or even was manager Rob Thompson potentially going to get fired today? Well, the Phillies have put out word that tomorrow, as is usual, Rob Thompson will be available before the game in the dugout. So it does not appear that Rob Thompson has been relieved of his duties. But what we don't know is, were there any changes made to his coaching staff? He will potentially announce that tomorrow before the game. This team needs, in my opinion, some sort of change to be done. The status quo is definitely not okay. They are, I believe, 10 games below 500. They are well behind the Atlanta Braves, who are in first place. The Phillies were a team that were picked to win the division again. They were picked to be a potential World Series contender. And they are clearly falling well short of that goal in a lot of aspects of the game. Pitching, hitting, just has not been good. But the good news is there's still a lot of time left, a lot of games left to play in this season, so they can turn it around. But will they, and will that start tomorrow? We'll see. They open up with 3 games here at home against the Giants tomorrow night.
Okay. And just so you guys know, that game is around 6:40. That's when we're expecting everything to take place. And you mentioned there that we may have some words from the dugout. So I'm hoping that we will be able to maybe get that back in time for the 7 to 10 p.m. show for our audience out there. Last but not least, and then I'll let you go. We know the Sixers are also kind of in the I didn't even say it yet. I'll just let you take over. How are they doing?
Well, talk about a weird team. They had to win a play-in game to get in.
Mm-hmm.
They did that. They play the Celtics and in game 1 get blown out by 32 points. Everybody starts thinking, well, this isn't even going to be a series. And then they come out in game 2 and win in Boston. And you're going, well, maybe they can hang with the Celtics. It was 1-1 at that point. Joel Embiid was not back yet. They come out in game 3 without Joel Embiid again. Very good competitive game. It went down to the final minute. Sixers lost. Okay, they were competitive. You think, okay, this actually might be a good series. Then they come out in game 4. Joel Embiid announced 30 minutes before the game that he's in the starting lineup. Wow, what kind of lift is this going to give the team? What will it do for the guys? Evidently not much, because they got blown out by 32 points again. So now they're left scratching their heads wondering, well, what happens now in game 5? The Sixers are now facing elimination. So they have got to win tomorrow night in Boston in order to keep their season going. That's the bottom line. And we know now that Joel Embiid will play. But what will this team look like with him on the floor? It looked disjointed yesterday. It did not look clean. The defense was lacking. The Celtics shot the ball at an extremely high rate, like they did in game 1, which was why they were able to win by 32 points again. So we have no idea what's going to happen. This team is not looking great. But last time they didn't look great and lost by 32 points, they came back and won. So I have no idea what's going to happen. If you do, let me know.
I don't have my crystal ball out, but what I can say is you're absolutely correct that sometimes that kind of devastating loss really turns your attitude around. So maybe that's the attitude adjustment they needed.
Yeah, who knows? They needed a wake-up call. We'll see if they got it.
All right, thank you for talking sports with me, teaching me a little bit more as a player that I got to look out for. This has been really great. I'm going to let you go, though, so you can continue watching the Flyers game, and you guys will keep posted on the score as well. We only got a couple of minutes left. All right, when we come back, I don't want you guys to go anywhere because we have so much to talk about. I don't know if you heard, but the mayor here in Philadelphia is trying to do something for the kids. We were just talking about the potential for an after-school program to be defunded. Well, the mayor says that she wants to add some programs this summer. It might get your kids out there and involved. We'll talk about that when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray, and I am convinced there is nothing worse than a bored team who has too much time on their hands. And so Philly's mayor, Cheryl Parker, has put out this new and improved thing. She's calling it It's a Summer Thing. For the 2026 season, she's announcing low cost and even some free summer opportunities for kids, for teens, and even for families. Let's listen in to what this all entails.
It is great to be here as we officially lay out our lineup of activities for young people this summer in Philadelphia, a season that should be filled with opportunity, joy, learning, and quite frankly, possibility for every young person in our city. As mayor of the city of Philadelphia, I want you to know that nothing is more frustrating for me than traveling across neighborhoods in our city and hearing families and/or our young people themselves say they don't know how to get connected to summer activities. As we look at the number of partners that we have here today, these are the people who are doing everything that they possibly can to ensure that there are no barriers to entry, no barriers to access to these opportunities across our city. And they are doing that every day. I want to thank the lady who helps to lead all of it, and this is our amazing Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, Susan Slauson. Give her a huge round of applause. Come closer, team, come closer. Now, Kimberly Ali is our Commissioner for the Department of Human Services, and her deputy is here, Deputy Commissioner Gary Williams. Where you at, Gary? Gary, thank you so much. Listen, I'm biased. Gary's also a Lincoln University alum. He's got, this special orange and blue thing going on. Next, Kelly Richards, the president and director of the Free Library of Philadelphia. Kelly, our libraries are making it happen. Sydney Irvin Descent, Chief of Children and Family Services. Give Sydney a huge round of applause. And as people have talked about this strategic plan that they've seen produced for the first time. I mean, this detail, this meticulous, and quite frankly, intentional about making sure that Philadelphians are connected to every element associated with community organizing and community connection to law enforcement in the city of Philadelphia. I want to say a special thank you to our police commissioner, who's the best police commissioner in the nation right now, Kevin Becker. Thank you. People are reading that strategic plan and excited. And then finally, of course, workforce development. You have heard me, Philadelphia, say this 1,001 times. We have a comprehensive strategy when it comes to public safety that you hear me refer to as the PIE. It's prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And all you have to do is look at the data to know that the strategy, the holistic strategy, is working. But I will tell you that I do know what is the primary vehicle that should always be employed to ensure that we have addressed public safety in the city of Philadelphia. And Clancy, you give me access to an opportunity so I can earn a wage to be able to get the things I want to have in life. It is a significant way for us to reduce violence. So I want to say a special thank you to CEO Pat Clancy and Philadelphia Work for all of your workforce development efforts. And then our fearless educational leader, Superintendent Tony Watlington. Dr. Watlington, I mean, if you go to a website, if you're visiting our schools, the seamless connection between schools in our city, along with our city and our public-private partnerships. Cynthia Figueroa is here also from Jeffs. I think we're taking away any excuse that anyone could have about making sure that young people in our city during this time are not connected to something constructive. So with that in mind, I want you to know summer should never be a season where our children are left behind. It should be a season where they are engaged, supported, and quite frankly, inspired. That is why this administration continues to invest in young people and their families. So as we approach our grand celebrations to the nation's 250th birthday this summer, there has never been a better time to reflect on who we are and who we aspire to be. And that responsibility includes making sure that every young person has access to an opportunity and a fair shot at success. Many of you, again, you've seen us in action with our PIE strategy, but we want you to know that prevention, intervention, and enforcement, we don't simply focus on the E, the enforcement part of it. It is also about intervention, and that means reaching young people early with support, structure, and opportunity. Now, most of you already know I was a streetlight kid growing up in the city of Philadelphia. I know that sounds weird. Somebody's watching this somewhere, somehow saying, the mayor said she was a streetlight kid. What does that mean? I didn't need my grandmother to tell me what time to come in the house when the street lights were coming on. That meant it was time to hightail it back in the house. And I grew up in Northwest Philadelphia near 19th and Cheltenham. I was a cheerleader with our Oak Lane Wildcats. We were housed at the Simons Recreation Center. I ran track for a group called the Philadelphia Flames. Mr. Robinson and Miss Emma Robinson, they organized young people in the neighborhood. I didn't know growing up that being a cheerleader and actually running track, Clancy, Commissioner, I did not know that was prevention and intervention. We just did it because we had a good time and we had a chance to travel and compete. But those coaches and mentors and adults around us, they made sure that we had somewhere to go, something to do, and they were people who believed in us. And we didn't call it intervention back then, but in fact, now we know that's exactly what it was. And that is what I want for Philadelphia. For every child in our city, I want them to have caring adults in their lives, safe spaces, positive outlooks, and quite frankly, real opportunity. So when we think about, it's a summer thing, that's what it's all about. Let me hear you all say, it's a summer thing. It's a summer thing. Families should have access to camps, academic enrichment, teen workforce programs, pools and swim lessons. Do I have to jump in the pool this year? You know what? This is a challenge to everybody standing here with me. When I go and jump, you all need to come jump in the pool with me. But it's extremely important, those library programs, Kelly Play Streets, and so much more. No matter a child's interest, there's a place for them this summer in Philadelphia. So we look forward to a summer that is not only fun, but one that is meaningful. A summer where every child in our city, they know that we are investing in them. In addition to that, I saw a flyer with Vanessa. I saw a flyer this past weekend affirming, and I was like, wow, I wish it was this easy to do when I was growing up in Philadelphia. I can remember when I was a teenager and I turned 13. When you turn 13, you know you start counting down the months, and you are trying to get to 14. And when you know you are about to turn 14, when I grew up, you were at Broad and Lehigh. Now somebody's watching at home, but what is at Broad and Lehigh? What was there? Broad and Lehigh was where you used to have to go in Philadelphia to get your working papers. So when I first received my working papers, let me tell you where I work, Sue. So people know the mayor hasn't been mayor all her life. I want you to know I was a cashier at Dunkin' Donuts right here between 12th, 13th, and Market Street. I worked at Burger King off of Castor Avenue. I waited tables at a restaurant called Erie Square and the Olympic restaurant right near Germantown and Tioga. And the opportunity to be able to earn some money, and if you saved it, like I could go in Strawbridges and buy something on my own with my money, that was empowerment. And we want that available for all of our young people. And the key is this. You don't need a special hookup. You don't need to know anybody. I don't care where you are. If you are a resident of our city, you can go on our city's website to get access to this information. Nothing special. If you want to participate, you just go onto the website, you click the link, it's a summer thing, and every activity that we have readily available, it is available to you.
All right, so as you heard, she was just talking about some of the opportunities that will be available for you all if you are looking for something to do this summer. And I just want to make sure that you also know where to go. We have an article up on our website and it has the link to it, but this is the government page for Philadelphia. And as you can see on the It's a Summer Thing page, they got a lot of different programs available for you all, including Enjoy the Water. That's a free swimming program. You'll take free swimming lessons, a skill that's honestly incomparable, invaluable. You couldn't trade it for anything else. It's a very important skill to have, especially as a kid, especially if you plan on going on any vacations or anything like that. You want to make sure that your child knows what they're doing when they get out there, especially in open water. So again, that's available for you all. They also price out any of their programs that aren't free, so you know ahead of time what you're looking at and what these programs will mean for your kid. Now I got some breaking unfortunate news for you sports fans. The Flyers did unfortunately lose. We just got the final score in. They stayed 2-3. Of course, the Penguins coming out on top. That's the final score. Now this makes things really interesting. We know the Penguins were clearly fighting for their lives, and sometimes that's the edge that you need, that adrenaline rush of, if we don't do this, we're going home, you guys. And so they did come out on top, but that doesn't mean it's the end for us here with the Flyers. So they'll be back in Philadelphia at Xfinity Mobile Arena. That game will be Wednesday. We need to come out in full force, orange it out, whatever the phrase is. That's what we need to do to make sure our boys come out on top. They'll of course be playing in front of their very own fans, and you know, we just need to make it lively for them. I'm hoping that if we do come out on top this time around, and I think we have to win 2 more games if I heard right from our sports team, and then we're back cooking. So again, it's not all things lost. It's not all hope lost for the Flyers. We do still have some time ahead of us. Now it's game time. We got to get serious. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk real quick with Jake Leonard from our digital team. We'll be talking to you about one of our questions of the night. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I said I wanted to end the show on a positive note. We're talking about good news, and we're sharing your good news. So we asked the people what.
Yes, so we asked, you asked to share a good moment that's happened in April. And we also asked people, has April been the best month of 2026 so far? We're 4 months in. I just had to quick do that math in my head. But yeah, so a lot of people, so 45% of the people said yes. Great to hear. 33% said no. That's okay too. Maybe it just hasn't happened yet, you know?
And 22% just said it. I understand, but on Instagram, you guys did get back to me. So first and foremost, Glenn Robert Ford says Aries gang, because I was talking about how I'm a Taurus. He says that he finished another script, recorded content for a second poetry album. His mom and uncle contributed to it as well. Congratulations
that's awesome.
to you.
That sounds like a great April.
Yeah. And then with one more, because it's Philly coded, and we'll make it real quick. David Seeley says, it wasn't this April, but 5 years ago in April, got to visit Cheryl Lee Ralph at her Philly home. She adopted a dog from the animal shelter that he works at. Yeah, perfect. So you guys are having a pretty good April.
Yeah, love to hear it.
Love to end on some good news. You guys, thanks for streaming with us on Philadelphia Live. Your news continues at 10, so don't go anywhere.